righty. Welcome, welcome. And thank you for your patience. This is the special and regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Pacifica. It is March 10th, 2025. Could we have a call to order, a roll call, please? City Clerk Coffin.
Councilmember Wright.
Here.
Councilmember Espinoza.
Here.
Councilmember Beer.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Bowles.
Here.
Mayor Beckmeyer.
Present. And I will read the land acknowledgement. The City of Pacifica acknowledges that we occupy the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples, who are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula. We honor the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples for their enduring commitment to Mother Earth. As the indigenous protectors of this land, and in accordance with their traditions, the Ramaytush Ohlone have never ceded, lost, nor forgotten their responsibilities as the caretakers of this place, as well as for all peoples who reside in their traditional territory. We affirm their sovereign rights as First Peoples and wish to pay our respects to the ancestors, elders, and relatives of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples. And we'll have a salute to the flag led by Councilmember Wright.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Attorney, is there a closed session report?
No reportable action.
Thank you very much. We have 9 items on the consent calendar. Are there any council members who wish to pull an item from consent?
Yes, I'd like to pull item 7.
Item 7. Anyone else? All right. Having pulled the item, that means we will go through, we'll have public comment on items on the consent agenda, except for item 7. And then we'll bring it back to council. Then we will take up item 7 all by itself with its own public comment period. So, I have no cards for consent calendar public comments or comments on the consent calendar other than for item 7. Assistant City Clerk, do we have anyone on the phone who seems to want to speak on this item? No. I'm seeing no cards being brought forward, so I'm going to close public comment and bring it back to council.
I move to approve the consent calendar minus item 7.
Second?
Please vote.
I think this one's mine.
Oh, yeah.
Oops. Sorry. That's yours. I had pushed yours.
And the consent calendar minus item number 7, with the motion by Councilmember Beer and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Bowles, passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Is this light on? No, accident. Okay, thank you. All right, now we'll take up item 7. And
Yes, I'm sorry.
I do have one card. Do we want to discuss it before public comment or hear from the public?
Maybe
All right,
I had.
please go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to ask a couple of questions, and I know there's someone from the public who has a follow-up question, but so this is the approval of the street sweeping project, and staff was kind enough to show the maps of the days that the different streets are being cleaned. And just a couple clarifications. I noticed that there are some streets that aren't swept at all, and I just wanted to clarify what the distinction is and how that is decided. And then also if there is a particular schedule that goes along with this, one of the issues with the commercial areas that I've heard is that if the parking spaces, if the cleaning is happening too late in the day, then the parking spaces get filled, and then the cleaners just go in the middle of the street as opposed to cleaning the curbs, which is where a lot of the trash builds up. And so I don't know if we have more detailed information that hasn't been shared with us about, detailed schedule, especially for the commercial areas.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Bowles and Council. Kevin Woodhouse, City Manager. I can start off with some information, but I'll ask Public Works representatives, they're already there, to come up and speak in more detail. I think under this contract, which is in order to meet our budget, is cutting the frequency of the program, but still covering the same streets and doubling in the higher trash load commercial areas. So that's the goal here. In terms of schedule, I think the schedule specifically for the second sweep in those commercial areas is yet to be developed, but I'll ask staff to speak generally about the schedule on other streets.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, Roland Yip, Deputy Director of Public Works / City Engineer. If I may ask City Clerk Coffey, if you can pull up the PDF of our current schedule up on the screen for us. So this is our current schedule of the street sweeping. We currently sweep the streets within this 2-week schedule. So we street sweep most of the city within these 2 weeks. So the northern part is swept in the first week, and then the southern part is swept in the second week, and then we would do that again. So we sweep it twice a month. I don't have any specific details on the exact times. I would have to reach out to our contractors to figure that out. So in terms of our policies on no parking, we currently don't have a no parking policy during the street sweeping times like other cities, and that is a resource that we currently are not able to provide. That would take enforcement from the police department in order to enforce the parking spaces, and we currently don't have any resources for that. That's why we don't have a no parking policy in the city. There's no parking signs. So the change that we are making with the upcoming street sweeping contract is to reduce it. We are still street sweeping all of the city once, but the second time we will only be street sweeping the commercial areas and roughly around 17 miles of commercial areas the second time around. The reason for that is because recently the Department of Industrial Relations several years back passed a requirement for street sweeping that is required for them to pay prevailing wages. And because of that, the cost for this upcoming contract has gone up significantly and almost doubled the price. So that's why with the current amount that we were spending, roughly $200,000 a year, we are currently only able to sweep the city a little bit more than once per month. In terms of the amount of miles in our commercial areas, the Manor Plaza, Lindemar Shopping Center, and most of some of the areas around Palmetto, it's only around 2 miles of street sweeping. So with 17, we are able to cover a good amount of the commercial areas. I'd like to go over on the third PDF, City Clerk Coffey, if you can scroll down for me. This is the trash generation areas of the city. Red is where there's a lot of trash generation. Yellow is medium, and green is relatively low. So you can see in the areas around here, around the mall areas is red. We don't have a lot of red areas, so the 17 additional miles, when we looked into reducing our scope, it would be sufficient for a lot of the commercial areas to be addressed with this reduced scope.
And while you're on that page, what is the dark blue FTC drainage area? What is that?
So those the FTC are full capture devices. So street sweeping is one mechanism where trash is captured before it goes into the storm drain system. The other ways is all of the drainage areas will drain into catch basins, and the catch basins themselves have trash capture devices, which get cleaned out by vac trucks. We also have another project, which we got funding from Caltrans, to install a huge trash capture device near Manor and Bill Drake, and that's going to cover a huge amount of area from the city, and collect trash in that way as well.
I'm sorry, that's just the area I'm interested in. So Manor and Bill Drake capturing trash in the storm drains? Is that?
Correct. We are installing a trash capture device in a close to 50-plus inch storm drain. So a huge portion of the city, most of it is Caltrans right away, and that is why Caltrans gave us the funds to install this trash capture device. But it's a very large storm drain, so there's a lot of drainage areas draining into that 50-plus inch storm drain, and it's a very large trash capture device.
Okay, thank you. So I'll wait till after public comment.
Any other questions for,
I have a question, if that's okay.
please, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I had some questions about a few streets, specifically in Ballymar and in Rockaway, that were a concern to our constituents. One of them was Copeland in Rockaway, and the other one is Angelita in Ballymar. And so I guess my question is, what's being done to assure that the street sweepers, street cleaners, are not doing more damage to these streets that are already so damaged? Like, these are the streets that don't have slurry seal, right? They don't have sidewalks, and so there's a lot of concern around streets like that. And sorry I didn't send my question in earlier. I just thought.
Yeah, no problem. So in terms of how a pavement is designed, it's designed based on something called an equivalent single axle load. So it gets damaged when there's significant weight from a vehicle. So something like a sedan or like a SUV, they're actually very minimal. And the street sweeper would be considered relatively minimal as well. What is considered very heavy are like garbage trucks, school buses. Those generate in incredible amounts of weight, and like any other dump trucks. So the street sweeper doesn't carry a ton of load, so it's not going to damage the road. Unfortunately, I mean, our resources for funding our pavement program is limited, and we have a huge backlog on our repairs at the moment.
Okay, and so if we had like potholes that had just been filled, right, would it be damaging for those potholes that have just been filled?
So it's not a huge factor in terms of damaging the pavement in general.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Greg, please, go ahead.
Yeah, could you just refresh my memory on how it is that you take into consideration what day trash day is, so that, like, in my neighborhood, for example, they often street sweep on Monday and then they pick up trash on Tuesday, and that seems backwardsy to me.
Yeah, so that schedule was here before my time. So I will have to look into it a little bit more closely, and we can readjust it with this upcoming contract, because we will be moving around some of the schedule a little bit anyways. It's likely that we're going to move some of the commercial areas into the front part of the 2-week schedule so that they can come back on the second time around. But that's one of the things we're adjusting. We can adjust it for the garbage pickup as well.
Thank you.
I have a question on that, and it's okay if you don't know yet. Do you, a timeline, any kind of idea about when you're going to be working on that second pass through the commercial areas, the scheduling for that?
We will do it. We're planning to make that adjustment effective almost immediately after the meeting. So within the next 2 weeks, you should be seeing a change.
Okay, thank you. We do have some public comment. Oh, did you have a question, Myra?
I do.
Please go ahead.
I have a
Councilmember.
question. My question, thank you so much. My question is about the established budget is 304. So is that amount is annually? When we add that for 3 years, it comes to a different amount. Is that there is another cost added to that?
That is correct, Councilmember. So they, after this annual contract is complete, the next one will have to get adjusted with something called the Consumer Price Index, is a CPI, and that's noted in their contract as well, that they will have to adjust every single year. So there's a slight 3 to 5% bump every single year, and that's where the addition is coming off a little bit because we've increased it around 3% every single year.
Thank you.
Okay, well then I think we should have public comment if there are no other questions. I have 4 cards on this item. Tiger Jazz Twirls Big Stick, Bill Myeroff, Cliff Lawrence, and Sue Dugree.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. I am Tiger Jazz Twirls Big Stick of Pacifica. Thank you all for being here. First of all, I'm somewhat saddened to hear that there will be a slight reduction in service. Money is what it is, so I won't dwell on there too long, but I am saddened to hear it. It seems like questions around street sweeping are a perennial favorite from those who take an interest from time to time. And generally speaking, there's this question of, when does that happen so that I know when to get my car out of the way? Or how can we facilitate my neighbors getting their car out of the way since it happens so infrequently as it is? It occurs to me perhaps it wouldn't be the worst idea to, along with the contract, issue a postcard to the households just with the schedule on it, letting people know. A lot of people won't see that, but it's the most pragmatic approach off the top of my head I can think of. And if perhaps we issue such a postcard every 3 years when we renegotiate the contract, just so people are aware initially in some form whatsoever when the street sweep comes through, that might be somewhat helpful on any level. After all, as we just heard, street signs are not going to be a thing anytime soon, so it would be nice just to have that initial bulletin every 3 years or so, if nothing else. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bill Myeroff, then Cliff Lawrence.
Good evening. Bill Meyerhoff, long
Can you
time.
pull the mic up a little bit, Bill? Thank you.
Good evening. Bill Meyerhoff, longtime business owner in the Manor District. My comments on street sweeping is that it's been very ineffective and inefficient. If I go back a few years ago, we figured out that the street sweeper would come by usually around 8 o'clock in the morning. And we could plan on that. We could move vehicles if there were some vehicles parked there so that he could get a clean sweep up against the gutter. For quite a bit of time now, what I've noticed is sometimes he's coming around 10:30 in the morning. By that time, all the parking spaces are taken. He's just driving down one lane and then turning around and coming back the other. And, you know, that's in the middle of the street. It's not doing any good. It's just burning fuel. I get out there, I sweep my own gutter, with the litter and sand that blows in. I've also noticed back on Dolphin Court, it's the same thing, at those times that they come by. So if us business owners and or residents, just had an idea when they're coming, we could do the best and work together to make it more effective and efficient and get the dollar's worth of cleaning that we need. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cliff Lawrence, and then Sue Dugree.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. My experience on street cleaning across this country is that in some places it's well organized and well scheduled, such that maybe there's a 2 o'clock or 2 hour window that's posted, and the cars get moved from that side of the street. They double park on the other side in the case of Brooklyn. So you have that. Maybe if that could be taken in mind, maybe improve the ability to get the trucks through, so the cleaners, so that they can accomplish their mission. The other thing, though, and this is not a problem I have a question of whether the city receives many complaints about dust and such from the street cleaning operation. And if they do, are they using an adequate amount of water on the trucks to keep that dust down? So the other thing I'll share with you is if you've traveled in Europe, maybe you've been woken in the morning with the sounds of tree branches, people sweeping the streets with tree branches. So it's a different world. Thank you.
Thank you. Sue DeGree.
Hi. So if it was advocacy on the part of the city or the owner of the company to get the Caltrans with that, sounds like a pretty powerful machine, because Highway 1 gives an image of who we are. And the other thing, I have strange schedules at times. Sometimes I'm up by 5, sometimes I'm out roaming around closer to 8. I agree with Mr. Meyer how for businesses at 8 o'clock, it's just a no-go. And then there are businesses, because we frequent Mazzetti's Bakery, and they are open early. And they need their area cleaned, because that is a very busy place. You see people lined up. Well, they have parked somewhere. And for their street to get cleaned, and they're a commercial business, it's essential. The other thing that concerns me, which I like to see an ongoing evaluation, is do we even look into, are those machines just, rushing it all over the place? Or is it actually scooping up? Because Linus and the cloud of dust around Linus, I've been behind the street cleaner, also going at rather rapid speeds. There is dust all over. So when I see a street sweeper, I make sure I am 2 blocks behind it. That just seems kind of strange. So I would encourage ongoing evaluation of any contracts, to make sure that they're actually doing. The other thing is to evaluate, I think, is are we saving money by these types of contracts? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Sue. Assistant City Clerk, do we have any callers on the phone?
There are no raised hands.
Okay, thank you very much. Then I'm going to close public comment on this item and bring it back to council. So any further comments or discussion? Yes, Christine, please go ahead. I'm Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, if I can ask Public Works again. So, is it possible? Well, for one, how early do they start? What is kind of their time? And is it possible to look at the schedule a little bit more carefully and actually work with the business owners? I mean, it sounds like there may be different needs in different areas, right, depending on their order of operations. And I know they have their routes and they're trying to be efficient, but obviously if they're coming, at 10 o'clock, on Manor Drive, they're not sweeping the curbs, where cars are parked. So are there things that we can do to adjust and communicate the time?
Yeah, we can definitely do a better job of the communication on the time. We have the street sweeping schedule that I showed posted on the website, but in addition to that, we can show the times, and so everyone's aware roughly, a 3-hour time frame, 3 to 4 hour time frame when they're going to stop by. So we can definitely do that. Taking notes of what everyone's commenting on, checking about the water in the trucks as well, and checking in the commercial areas a little bit more closely to make sure those areas are swept.
Okay. Thank you. And I know specifically for Manor, it's trash in the streets, but it's also a lot of sand, right? And that tends to accumulate on the curbs, and then it becomes an access issue too. And poor Bill is having to sweep a lot of that up a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. So that would be great. And have there been complaints? Is there people were asking just in terms of dust and other things?
This is the first time I hear about the dust. The only times I hear about when people have come in and have talked to me about it was when we maybe missed their street and something like we may have used to do it and have to get them back on the schedule. But other than missing a street, I haven't heard of too much about the dust.
And Mayor Pro Tem Bowles, I can say that I have heard complaints about dust, mainly from a former council member who would comment on it, but not, broadly. And we do, in terms of enforcement and monitoring and contractual obligations, we do track and enforce and work with all of our vendors to improve those. To Councilmember Beer's comment earlier about streets that are really broken up, we actually did go out, evaluate one of the streets and determine, this street shouldn't be street swept because it's not productive on the street. So, it's an ongoing improvement process that we do work with our contractors on.
Thank you. I just want to say, from my personal, and this has been a thing with me for years, since long before being on council, and I would love to find some kind of way to rally neighborhoods around the postcard that they may or may not receive, the regular communication, and I don't know the right way to do that. I've anecdotally talked to my neighbors, but lots of people park additional cars on the street, and they don't move their vehicles. And so you can see a clear line where the little white line goes around the basketball hoop and the 2 or 3 cars parked there. It's frustrating, but I'm open to any creative ideas folks have that don't cost a lot of money, like a major enforcement effort, because I pursued that honk heaven the first year I was on council. Yeah. I will say the person who's sweeping on my street, that I noticed an immediate difference because wastewater brought the new catchment thing, or whatever you call it, and installed it a month ago. And it was doing such a great job, and then street sweeping went, and it was cleared off. So it's doing what it's supposed to do there, but mine isn't a high-traffic area like a commercial area, so I don't know. I'm hopeful that the 2 times a week begins to address it. Would there be an opportunity, do you think, to circle back, not immediately, give it some time, 6 months or something, just so we can get a check-in about any improvements we're seeing or any opportunities that we see to carry on improvements? Thank you.
And the communication piece, too, I think is really important. So whether we're able to get, more specific times on the website or a postcard or something on Connect Pacifica, things like that, so people can actually know.
Once that's settled, that'd be really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
And regarding communications, I just do want to be very clear regarding the postcard concept, that if that's something that the council wants to direct, there's, the basic cost is probably between $6,000 to $10,000 to mail out a postcard. In my humble opinion, I don't think it's going to be that effective for clearing off streets. I think an effort to promote digitally through all our sources, which we do periodically, and we'll do it again, especially at the commencement of the new contract, is probably the way to go. I think a lot of postcards just get thrown out, and a lot of folks are going to see it and say, yeah, but I'm not moving my car. So I think other kind of community, neighborhood, peer pressure, neighbors working with each other about it is probably a more grassroots way to go, in addition to the city's digital communications.
Or we can get out there and go visit our neighborhoods.
Yeah.
In all of our spare time.
But having more specific information and time ranges, on each street would be super helpful. Yeah.
And I just do want to comment, just one caveat on that sort of time frame. The street sweepers come from out of town, right? So it's not like a city program. I live in San Francisco, and you have the 2-hour window, and there's parking enforcement, and the enforcement is there right on the dot, and so you need to move for fear of a ticket. But there would, while we can refine, maybe on certain streets, it's within this 3 or 4 hour window. Typically, I'd turn to Mr. Yip to say there might be conditions or days, or the street sweepers are caught in major traffic and don't get a start till later, that it's outside of that window. And then if it falls outside of that usual window, then we'll field a lot of complaints. That would just be what it is. It's better, to have a window that's smaller than a large day, so we can work towards that. But just to, give the caveat that it's not going to be perfect.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that Manor area has been a trouble spot for a long time. So if lots of effort can be put into that one, I think we would see a big improvement. With the sand that blows right up Manor Drive, it's a continuous problem. So thank you. Appreciate that. All right, we need a motion and second, and we have to vote on this.
I move that we approve item 7.
I'll second.
Please vote. All right, very well. Thank you.
With the motion to approve item number 7 made by Mayor Pro Tem Bowles and seconded by Councilmember Beer passes unanimously.
Okay, that brings us to our public comments on items not on the posted agenda. So this portion of the agenda is available for the public to address the City Council on any issue that is not on the agenda. Any person wishing to address the council shall be recognized, and there will be a 3-minute time limit. Please keep comments to items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. And if the commenter is not able to do that, we'll provide you with a warning and see if we can get it back on to subject matter of the city. And if we have difficulty, ultimately, we may need to cut the microphone. I'm sure that won't happen this evening. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people who are asking to speak, and Joaquin Jimenez, Haley Buyea, and James Buyea are the first 3. Hello. Welcome.
Thank you, thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members. I'm back. I am worried, I am concerned. My name is Joaquin Jimenez from the city of Half Moon Bay. Last week, March 4th, San Mateo County was given a test on democracy. It is unfortunate that we failed. The failure to practice our democracy is a concern to a lot of us. We have, as a country of immigrants, I am an immigrant, we have fought to protect our democracy. Last week in San Mateo County, 20% of San Mateo County population came out to vote. 20%. That 20% is going to make a decision for 100% of the population of San Mateo County. Is that concerning? Yes, it is. Just think about it. If 20% of our population made decisions for all of us, we know Sheriff Kijona Corpus was elected by the people of San Mateo County. There's been only one other, measure, proposition passed in California where they wanted to remove a sheriff, which it failed. Southern California. Now, we know to remove an elected official, he had to be through the process of a recall. Not but us, the people, giving the power to our county supervisors to make a decision for us. It is unfortunate. April 3rd, I believe it is, they're going to have to make a decision and see what's going to happen from that. You're setting a precedent in our county where we say, oh, democracy doesn't really matter. And it does. It is a concern. We know what is happening in the country right now. Everybody's aware of what's going on. We know about the fear that we have on the immigrant community in our country, in our backyard. So if we don't respect and approve of democracy, we are in trouble. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Haley Bouyeya, am I saying that correctly? Maybe not. No, doesn't look
It's
like.
Boyer.
Boyer.
Yeah, but don't worry.
Boyer.
everyone-
Haley Boyer,
everyone gets
James Boyer.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, please go ahead.
So yeah, I am Haley Boyer. I wanted to address the,
Pull it.
Okay.
There you go.
There you go.
okay,
Thank you.
cool. I wanted to address the city today about a major injustice that is happening at the apartments of Seacliff Apartments, mainly with the people that have housing vouchers, and how obvious and blatant the discrimination is at the apartment complex right now with, you know, the management versus anyone who has help, like a housing voucher. I have seen it get kind of more and more aggressive over the past year. I would say it has become a very hostile environment there, to the point where it's almost tenants versus tenants, voucher versus, I guess, the average person. It got to the point where if you are someone who has a housing voucher living at the apartment complex, you could face the possibility of eviction for basically just doing anything a normal person would do. They are writing people up just for having guests while other people are throwing full parties. And it got to the point, like I said, with the tenant versus tenant, where if someone has a housing voucher and, you know, someone sees them do something minor, maybe have a guest over or park in an odd spot, they will get written up, while the average person will not. They have been picking and choosing who they are targeting to face potential eviction and try to get those people out of the apartments. And those people that have been, I guess, ratting out other tenants have actually been getting rewards. There's someone getting their apartment completely redone because they are close with the management that is obviously trying to get everyone else out. And I see the timer, so I'm getting nervous, so I'm just going to stop it now. But thank you.
Thank you. James Boyer, then Natalie Hopner, and then Takuko Hirano.
My name is James Boyer. I live at 300 Seacliff. And what's been going on is we didn't get a water bill for 9 months. And I was asking the property manager, her name is Alice. I said, what's going on? She said, don't worry about that, just pay your electricity bill. Okay, so we did. 9 months later, I get this letter on my door saying I owe $377. So I paid it. And just about nobody else did, but I paid it. So then she throws another one on me for $657 for a year before that. And I don't want to get thrown out. I'm not doing too well. I have cancer. She stresses me out. And when she stresses me out, it gives me a shorter life. Let's just put it that way. And I've told her, and so I went up to her because Marina down at the resource center said she needs a ledger. So I went up to her. I said, here's the $657. I need a ledger. I never seen anybody jump out of their seat so fast. She jumped out, snatched it out of my hand. I didn't even fill it out. I didn't get the receipt. I go, I want it back. She goes, no, you have to leave. So I left. So basically, what I want to know is, could I get her for a strong arm? Because she should have never done that to me. Now she's got $1,000 of my money, and she just wrote me up again saying I haven't paid because I have no proof now. She took my receipt. She's done this to me several times. Then she tells me, if you're going to have any guests, you have to come to the office. They have to come up, get a pass to come to my house. I have 9 people in my family. I have 5 sisters and 3 brothers, plus me. They come to see me because I'm not doing so well, and they have to go get a pass. Are they going to go get it after she's off of work? They're going to call her house? I mean, I don't know. This is just getting a little ridiculous. If they want to park there, they have to get a parking pass, which there's no parking anyways. Oh, is my time up?
No, 1 more minute.
Oh. So, I mean, she gave me a 3-day notice. I don't even know what a 3-day notice is. Pay up or quit, whatever that meant. So I went and I paid up, and she just gave me another one a couple days ago saying I'm not paying. And I'm one of them. I'm one out of about 20 people she's doing this to. Okay? There was also a thing about when I first moved in, they said if you have a second car and there's someone that lives there that doesn't have a car, they want to let you use their parking spot, that's fine. So this lady let me use her parking spot. Next thing you know, she was getting a tow truck there to get my car towed out of there. I mean, that's it. Not even contacting me first, just have it towed. Things just ain't right with her. I mean, she said she swears she's going to get all the voucher people out of there. And the way it looks, there's 4 people right now that are living on Manor Plaza's sidewalk and don't even know why. Okay? So, thank you.
Thank you. Natalie Hopner, Takuko Hirano, and Lisa Reed.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. Good evening, City Council members. And let's see. So I want to speak about Seacliff Apartments as well. I was here a couple of weeks ago, and I first wanted to thank the council for hearing us. Thank our mayor and all the council members, and especially also Mayor Pro Tem Bowles, for reaching out to me and really giving me a space to kind of express the concerns. I spoke about my own personal concerns and my roommate's concerns, who also spoke. We're not on vouchers at Seacliff Apartments, and I think that but we're watching the discrimination happening against our neighbors, and so we're really here to advocate for them, as well as point out some of the blatant violations of code and safety expectations and habitability issues at Seacliff that affect everyone that lives there, voucher holding or not. But the fact is that we have other neighbors here tonight that we've tried to organize, and you've just heard from a couple of people. Lisa's hopefully going to be here, but she's stuck in traffic, so I'm hoping that she gets here in time to make comment. But they're speaking about their personal experiences as voucher holding tenants, so you can really hear firsthand what's going on there. What we're doing right now, we're hoping to get the issues with code enforcement listened to a little bit more. We've also been organizing. We met with tenants together, and we're going to be meeting with Pacifica Housing for All to really look at how we can get an organized group and collective action within Seacliff. So we really appreciate the support of the city council members and leadership in the city to kind of bring attention and notice to what is going on at the Seacliff Apartments. And I think that I know voucher versus non-voucher, but we're non-voucher, and we are neighbors and friends with many of the voucher holding tenants. The other thing that I've seen happening is that they're pitting tenants against each other regardless of their status. If somebody's on a voucher but they're doing what the management asks, then they're giving them breaks, as you kind of just heard from James. I believe he mentioned that. And that is, we have reams of evidence actually written about these things happening with management. So I know that some of this may be out of the purview of the city, but anything that can be done in terms of holding them accountable to safety and equitable distribution of resources and equitable access to housing for folks so they do not become homeless and on the street is what we're really hoping to get from the council and from city leadership. So thank you so much for listening. And yeah, hopefully Lisa will be here to share her story.
Thank you. Takuko Hirano, Lisa Reed, and then Cliff Lawrence.
I'm always very short, so. Okay. Can I start now? Oh, okay. So, do you know what Welcome to Pacifica sign look like? Welcome to Pacifica sign has a blue wave in oval shape. I gave some paper there. You can hands around. The oval shape immediately embraces you positively. Both color and shapes in your environment affect psychologically. Once
Chokuko, can you please move the mic really close to your mouth?
Oh, okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, like this, huh? Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
So once I attended UN human rights meeting in Switzerland, I was shocked and frightened by the ceiling artwork of the conference room. This is what I saw. Okay. I gave some paper over there. Okay, this is what I saw in the place, in the ceiling design. I was shocked, frightened, the ceiling artwork in the conference room. This was what I saw. No wonder UN cannot agree on anything. So much hatred exists within the room. Both colors, shape affect human. Ugly things are ugly to anybody's eye. Let us not hide our true feeling. Trust your own institution. I listen to my own institution, and I am right. There was a beautiful sign in Eureka Square shopping center. Hand-carved sign was perfect for Pacifica. But one day, it was gone. Artist of Pacifica sign may be the same artist. Now, this is what you see. This is what you see in Eureka Square. So does this design bring you emotional richness? You may not pay attention much to the building you are in. But as an architect, this building is one of the most beautiful Spanish-style buildings in Pacifica. Exterior walls have a series of arches. Continuous arches give you peace, feeling like walking through church. One day, someone painted the wall. The color black wall conveys dark image of Pacifica. I am sure artists try to communicate differently. However, the sunset provides a very dark image of Pacifica. Artwork may be pretty in some other places, but next to public library.
Thank you, Chokuko.
I request to remove the artwork. Please remove the artwork immediately.
Could you please send an email to us about this topic so we could get all of your thoughts?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lisa Reed, if she's here, and Cliff Lawrence. Lisa's not here, so Cliff Lawrence.
Cliff Lawrence here. Thank you. Just a variety of quick things. One, the Seacliff thing is getting heard around town, and I expect you to hear some more. The gentleman that spoke about the election, I understand, but the no vote was very poorly supported in any kind of campaigning, and but I grieve too for the people who feel that they've been disenfranchised or that this is not appropriate power to install to a Board of Supervisors. However, I really wanted to mention something else this evening, and that is I want to thank city and staff for upgrading and issuing a new active applications spreadsheet. Went through it in some great detail. We'll have questions, but I look forward to the reconstruction of the map that goes with it and future updates. Without it, we kind of run blind out here as to what's really going on, whether things are meeting their deadlines. And so it really is a critical tool. I thank you.
Thank you. All right, so having not seeing Lisa Reed yet, we're going to turn to the phone and see if we have callers on the Zoom call.
We have one raised hand. It is for Irene Lee.
Please go ahead.
Hi, I just want to mention that last Friday, my neighbor and I were shocked that we had 2-car accident on Manor Drive, and I sent the photo to you already. And actually, the accident was due to people not paying attention and speeding, and they were hitting stationary, one stationary truck and one dump container. And also, I guess another car was hit. I mean, I was in the backyard. I didn't see the accident itself, but I heard it. My thought is that we definitely need something, not just stop sign, to slow down drivers. Maybe speed bump or maybe something else. And I like the city council to also to take that into consideration. And another thing I want to mention, like I attended a really good meeting with Mayor Pro Tem Christine Bowe on last Saturday. And one of the things that came up was how can we actually generate more revenue for Pacifica? And the thought is just that with at the Manor Shopping Center is actually the entrance point for a lot of visitors. So that would be a good place for like a food truck or farmer's market or some other stuff that draw people in as they enter into Pacifica. Maybe we have a big enough sign to say something like, some sort of pop-up festival or something. So anyway, these are my comments. Thanks.
Thank you.
There are no other raised hands.
Thank you very much. Is Lisa Reed here? She's not. She's downstairs. We can reopen public comment when she arrives to let her speak. And I think that's what we'll do. I'm going to close public comment now, and we'll reopen when she arrives. All right, council, it is your turn to update us all. Okay. Hello.
Take a breath.
Take a breath, rest, relax for a minute. We'll get to you. Yes, take your time. Yes. Okay, who would like to go first? Council members? I don't have any lights.
Can we do it at the end?
The end of the meeting?
Yeah.
Do you promise that you'll do it at the end of the
I
meeting?
will.
I agree.
Do you promise that we won't go home at 11:30 p.m.
promise.
having not done it? How do you feel about postponing our council updates till the end of the meeting?
I would prefer that we always do them in writing in the future and don't do them and waste our time at the meeting.
That's an interesting concept that we have never discussed. Perhaps we should agendize that for a discussion. Or can we talk about it now? Probably not. Nope.
Mary loved doing council communication, I know that.
I'm fine with doing it at the end, if you are.
I'm fine.
Okay.
Just go.
We will postpone council updates until at the end of our meeting. If Lisa Reed is ready to speak, we can have public comment reopened. Okay. Sure, of course. Absolutely. Do we need a different mic?
I don't think so.
You okay?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. Maybe can you move the mic
Pull it-
down?
pull it down
Pull
for
it
her.
down just a little bit. There you go.
Is that better?
Yes, thank you. Please go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Right. Gotcha. Hi.
Hi.
My name is Lisa Reed, and I wanted to speak to you guys a little bit about my experience at Seacliff Apartments.
Can you speak closer to the microphone, please?
I'd like to speak about my experience at Seacliff Apartments.
Yes.
First, a little background. Prior to me being homeless for 5 years, I lived in Palo Alto for 12 years. I worked for the same company for 12 years. I've never had an eviction or know anything really about it, the process or anything. And I was a dog groomer, mobile, for over 16 years in the Bay Area. So I'm very up by animals. I love them. So the first year that I moved into Seacliff was wonderful. I got a housing certificate, luckily enough, by the grace of God. And the first year was great. It was a very comfortable, welcoming environment. But they had a problem with the managers, and they kept switching managers and getting things fixed. Or I had a mold problem in my house that was really getting out of control, and because of my limited mobility, it was really hard for me to clean or pay attention to before I got my caregivers. And I just got absolutely no response from them time and time and time again. And I was preparing for surgery, my health being a priority. I was always worried, so now I have upper respiratory problems. But I had a heater issue there also. Nobody should live without a heater. It was not fixed. I went 16 months without a heater, and up until the day I moved. Things became apparent that it was changing around there. Beverly was the last manager I remember to be a good soul. The new ones that came didn't even come close to that. They just totally ignored us, and they were more businesslike than they were personal. So due to my physical limitations, my caregivers took over all most of my responsibilities. I have a dog. He was born on my birthday. He trained to be my service dog, and he ended up ripping his ACL when we were homeless back in 2020, and then he had a failed surgery after that. So it left him lame in the right leg, so I had to retire him. But he's been the most loyal friend I've ever had. And the kids are even jealous of him. But he's been my most loyal friend. And so he's still, technically he's retired, but he's still a service dog. Because of my background with animals, I'm very keen on what the rules are and what the, how dogs act around each other, unfixed, unneutered, neutered dogs and everything. We had a problem with somebody, one of the neighbors there that had another big breed. My dog's a bigger breed. And unfortunately, these people were not, they would not communicate with me at all. They did not want to fix anything. And they were the ones that actually started the discrimination process. They profiled us, put us together in a group, and said that we were unsavory characters because we are all in low housing.
I'm going to need you to send an email if you
I can
would
do that.
like to
Absolutely.
complete your thoughts for the council.
Absolutely.
That would be really helpful because the 3-minute time is up.
Okay, well, I just want everybody to be aware that that is what is going there. And yes, I have a detailed summary, and I'm trying to advocate now for
Thank you.
housing.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You got it.
And I see a card is being proffered by our captain. Thank you. Amanda Kraft.
Hi. I just wanted to speak briefly on behalf of Lisa Reed, who clearly, this is a very complex story, and it involves a lot more detail than 3 minutes could capture. But we wanted to be sure, even though there were some transportation issues and everything, that Lisa could at least be here tonight to introduce herself and hopefully moving forward get more of that story out. I'm just speaking because of the truncation of what was said. I just wanted to sort of shorten up a little bit that she's a victim of being in this environment, which we did bring up at the last meeting, so I'm sure people have been hearing most of the issues at Seacliff, where she was in an uninhabitable, technically living space for, I guess, 2 or 3 years. And she was being, as are the rest of the residents there, targeted from many different directions in order to get her evicted, which they did very successfully with, I don't want to give the wrong number, I'm going to say 40 or 50% of their Section 8 tenants as of right now. And that is since Alice or Alicia Lopez took over it was in July of last year. So this started to come very hard and fast. We have several other people who would like to have testimonies and would like to be seen and heard. They do tend to be more complex than the 3 minutes. And I just kind of jumped in to speak just to see if there were any recommendations going forward. So if Lisa speaks again, or some of the other people we have, of points to hit, that would be the most important, or other options too, where they can submit these testimonies. So I just wanted to speak and make that clear. I hope that helps. Okay?
Thank you. There are no further cards and no one is waiting to speak, so I'm going to close public comment and bring it back to the council and to the staff. Council's decided to postpone our updates until the end of the meeting, so City Manager Woodhouse, it's your turn.
And I don't have any time-critical updates, so I'm happy to postpone till the end as well.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And staff. Okay. Then we shall turn our attention to consideration items 10, 11, and 12. Item 10 is introduction of an ordinance to revise section 6-5.103 through 6-5.105 of the garbage collections, regarding garbage collections of the Pacifica Municipal Code, and interim Director of Public Works, John Mullins, is making his way to the microphone to give us a staff report.
Good evening, Mayor and Pro Temp Mayor and council members. I'm here this evening to introduce an ordinance to revise Section 6-5.03 through Section 6-5.05. Garbage collections of the Pacifica Municipal Code. Sorry.
Can you pull that mic a little closer to you?
Sure.
That would be great. Thank you. Oh, like
Sure.
I didn't do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is this better? Better. Thank you. Sorry. In July 9th, that we received a civil grand jury, San Mateo civil grand jury report entitled Restaurant Exteriors and Neglected Spaces. The core elements of that were, in the grand jury report, was restaurant garbage and food waste is not always contained in designated exterior bins and may overflow, attracting animals and undesirable pets. And restaurant exterior waste storage areas have become unsanitary and unsightly, particularly for residents that live behind those commercial buildings. And we'll talk about that in a minute. The grand jury report recommendation, a proactive approach to handling garbage sanitation problems around restaurants' exteriors, suggests a preventive maintenance. On September 9th, staff came to the City Council and they talked about the seven findings and the 4 recommendations. And of the 4 recommendations, only one was applicable to Pacifica, and that was recommendation number 4. So recommendation number 4, recommended by June 30th, 2025, inspectors for all jurisdictions, restaurants should be empowered to acquire owners, operators, and add receptacles or increase frequency of pickups. So in response of September 9th, staff said that by June 30th, the city shall amend Pacifica Municipal Code 6-5.03, 4, and 5, allowing the city to require sites to increase number of garbage containers and amend sections to require sites to increase frequency of pickups identified as insufficient by the city. So in response, we amended a section, we added section G actually to the ordinance. And I guess that section, the city may require a different size or quantity of waste containers than the size or quantity assigned or selected by the owners, as well as a higher frequency of collections beyond the subscribed or regular scheduled service if the volume of garbage, rubbish, or waste exceeds the capacity provided by the containers or frequency of collection is inadequate for garbage, rubbish, or waste generation. So it just gives the city a little bit more authority to require additional pickups or additional larger waste containers. Currently, we do not have any code enforcement issues related to this, but we have had in the past, and this gives us a little bit of leverage to require them to correct those inadequacies. In addition to being unsightly, we have 3 shopping malls near our creeks, Lindemar Shopping Center, Pedro Point, Sunshine Valley, which those areas drain directly into creek. So it's really important to keep those as clean, in addition to the safety. And for instance, folks who live behind Manor Shopping Center. So it gives us an ability to clean up those conditions. And the process would be Recology would notify them, and the city would do it also in writing to notify that we're increasing the frequency or the size of their containers. So section 6-5-104 was also is regarding size. The city added the last sentence. However, the city may require a different size of quantity or waste containers than the size or quantity assigned to the selected or owners provided. So again, this allows us to put a larger size in. And the last code amendment was section 6-5-105. And that says the city may require a higher frequency of collections beyond the subscribed regular scheduled service if the frequency of collection is inadequate. So currently, collection services provide from 1 to 6 times a week based on the size and need for buildings. So in some cases, there's pickups are 6 days a week. In majority of cases for residential, it's a single. But in this case, for instance, if a business had a 4-day pickup, we would ask for 5 or 6 days just to reduce the garbage areas in the back. So on this slide, you just want to show you the perspective or what the cost would be if we increase the gallons. So this is for commercial users. So it averages, starts at $10 and progressively goes up if we were to increase the size of containers or frequency of containers, or frequency of pickup of the containers. So it just gives you an idea of what the cost would be. So with that, recommended action, introduce by title only and waive further reading of the ordinance repealing and replacing section 6-5.103, 6-5.04, and 6-5105 of the Chapter 5 Garbage Collections and Recycle within Title 6 Sanitation and Health related to the size of the waste containers and frequency of collection. Or an alternative action would be decline to accept the proposed revision to section 6-5103, 6-5104, and 6-5105 and provide directions to staff for compliance with R4 of the San Mateo Grand Jury Report on the restaurant.
Thank you. Greg has his virtual hand up, and so does Mayor Pro Tem Bowles, so please go ahead. Councilmember Wright.
Just a quick question. Under the current code, are you happy with needing a lid on the garbage cans? Is there rodent infestation? Are you happy with that portion of the code?
It's critical that the lids be down, particularly on windy days. We're seeing that we're actually doing an annual inspection right now for the commercial properties where if those lids are not down, besides the rodents, we have the wind issues. So it should be down. So we don't have any current complaints, but on windy days, we've had complaints.
And so do you feel like there's sufficient, since we're going to the trouble of amending it, do you see a need to address that at all, or do you think that's sufficiently covered in the current code?
The complaints are driving us to make an amendment at this point. I've only heard one complaint in the last 8 months of that, and it was a really windy day in November, December. So the complaints aren't driving us to make any kind of amendment to that.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Bowles.
Thank you, Mayor. In part of the report, it says, as mentioned in the city's response to finding 4, the Manor Shopping Center is one of the only commercial areas with recurring unacceptable restaurant trash conditions. And I'm glad Bill is here tonight, but can you just explain, is it the trash that's behind the businesses, like in the alley with the apartments, that's the issue? Or I know they've had to put a lot of trash cans along the public right away where the entrances are off the parking lot also. What is actually the problem area?
So the trash cans in the front of the businesses have been fine. It's been more of the transient folks who stop there and leave garbage in the parking lot area.
Right.
So the garbage in the front of the building have not been problematic. It's been more of cleaning up the parking lot area on the frontage portion. And as far as the back goes, there was history of people leaving excessive materials or maybe were not related to the restaurant. And particularly one restaurant we were having problems with one restaurant, but the items that were seen were not related to the restaurant. So that has been since resolved. We're not seeing that problem. And that could, it could come back if somebody were to move out or something and they leave their things in the area there. But it's not an ongoing problem. I had the opportunity to speak with our code enforcement team. So again, they mentioned there was no active cases there, and the association has been cooperative as far as helping us keep the front clean. It's an ongoing challenge in that area.
Okay, so you're not seeing at this time additional trash from the apartments or from the unhoused community that lives along there?
Nothing.
Taking the space of the restaurant and other business?
Nothing currently, but periodically in the past there has been that challenge.
Okay. And obviously not all the businesses are restaurants either, so.
Not all of it, no, correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I'm looking forward to hearing from Bill.
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't see any other comments or questions from council, but I do have a public comment on this item. So I'll open public comment and invite Kimberly Finale to the microphone.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, and city staff. I'm Kimberly Finale, resident of Manor, District 3, here this evening, speaking as a private citizen. Most Saturdays, the Recology Yard is open to the public for the purpose of responsible disposal of debris, including garbage, oversized items, paint, toxic waste, etc. The list goes on. Still, though, green waste is not accepted. Many residents, including myself, have large lots which back up to open space. This means we have more yard waste than the average size lot due to dramatic weather events which cause branches, leaves, brush, ivy, etc. to creep or fall onto our properties. This past winter, a dead tree fell onto my property from GGNRA open space. I do most of the clearing of our land, but often it takes me weeks of filling me and my neighbors' green bins to ensure that the property is not in danger of fire. Last year, around this time, Recology had their new general manager here in council chambers. Recology received approval for a 10% increase in their contracted rate. I inquired at that time, among others, about our inability to dispose of green waste locally. General Manager Glenn said to council he would get back to you on this topic, but I am not aware that the issue has ever been addressed again. I'm following up on this now, as us residents who do our own yard work really need a place to be able to bring this excess green waste in a local designated debris site. This, too, is a sanitary and health issue, as we do our own preventive maintenance to reduce fuel for a potential fire. On a separate note, I'd also like to say yes to taco trucks, and Marge Davis, a caring and dedicated citizen, to be on the Planning Commission. Thank you.
We'll have another item later in the meeting, and you can make a comment.
Much appreciated.
At that time. Thank you. Okay. Assistant City Clerk, do we have any hands raised? No? Thank you. Seeing no further cards, we'll close public comment on this item. Bring it back to council for deliberation, discussion, and action. We don't have action, we introduce, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any further comments, discussion, questions?
I have one more question to Interim Director Mullins. Has there been outreach to the businesses and the restaurants in Manor Plaza in particular, letting them know that this ordinance is in the works, so that, they can keep an eye on things? And I know that a lot of them are struggling financially, and I know how expensive regular garbage pickups can be and add on, so that, anyway, they can try to get ahead of it before, just being told that they have to add service.
So we are currently working with some of the business owners, but this particular subject has not been brought to their attention. I will certainly do that to chat with them.
Okay.
But they've been very cooperative with the Recology team and us. Some efforts, other things that we're trying to work with.
Okay, I think it'd be great if we could let
Absolutely.
them know.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And if I may, to Mayor Pro Tem Bowles' point, one viewpoint I want to emphasize related to this ordinance revision is, yes, it's an action that we're taking as the outcome of the civil grand jury report. Yes, it gives the city more authority in the end to enforce more frequency or more containers, but it doesn't change what our collaborative approach is in working with businesses, working with Recology to ensure that the right type of service is set up for them, and working on that volunteer basis. That's our approach with them. In the end, if there's a business owner that just refuses to solve the problem, then we have this authority and we can turn to it. But I want to emphasize that sort of voluntary approach, which is our normal practice.
Thank you very much.
And I saw a head nod from the back of the room and appreciate very much the apparent willingness of Economic Development Coordinator Tara Schiff to work with you presumably in contacting businesses. Is that what your head nod meant? Yes. Okay. See, I'm interpreting it really well. Thank you. All right. So we don't have an action related to this item, is that correct?
We have to waive the first reading and introduce the ordinance.
Okay.
And that needs to be by roll call.
Do we have to make a motion,
Yes, in a second.
council?
All right, I moved to introduce by title only and waive further reading of an ordinance repealing and replacing section 6-5.103, 6-5.104, and 6-5.105 of Chapter 5 Garbage Collection and Recycling within Title 6 Sanitation and Health relating to the size of waste containers and frequency of collection.
I'll second.
And it's a roll call vote. I don't know.
You can vote with your voting buttons.
Oh, it's not a roll call vote. I misspoke.
No, I misspoke.
Oh, I'd like to state for the record that the city attorney
I'll state
misspoke.
it for the record.
And I
made a
repeated what
mistake.
she said.
I apologize.
Check.
Check. All right.
And for item number 10, with the motion made by Councilmember Beer and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Bowles, the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
All right, council, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mullins. Thank you, city attorney. We are moving to item 11, which is a resolution of intention to establish the Pacifica Tourism Marketing District. The proposed action is to adopt the resolution entitled, "A Resolution of the City Council of the City of Pacifica declaring its intention to establish the Pacifica Tourism Marketing District, PTMD, and fixing the time and place of a public meeting and a public hearing thereon, and giving notice thereof, and set the date of March 24th, 2025 for the public meeting and April 28th, 2025 for the final public hearing on the formation of the 1994 bid district." And we have Assistant City Manager Yulia Carter to give a staff report.
Thank you, the mayor. So I'm Yulia Carter, Assistant City Manager, so we'll be presenting today together with Emily Brown, so I will introduce her in a minute. But the item before you tonight is the resolution of intent to establish a new Pacifica Tourism Marketing District, and this action actually aims to modernize the existing district that we have in place, Pacifica Hotel Business Improvement District, created under the Parking and Business Improvement Area Law of 1989. That's the current district that we have in place, and we want to modernize it by creating a new district, referenced here as Pacifica Tourism Marketing District pursuant to Property and Business Improvement District Law of 1994. And by going through this motion, we will allow the existing HB district to expire at the end of the current term, which is a one-year term, at the end of this current fiscal year on June 30, 2025. So throughout this presentation, we will talk about the difference in laws between 89 and 94 and the benefits of the 94 district. We'll go over the steps for formation of the district. We'll discuss district parameters, assessments, and talk about next steps. And with that, I want to introduce Emily Brown. She is project manager with Civitas, assisting us with the formation of the district. And with that, I want to turn it to Emily to go over, and I apologize, I didn't flip the agenda. So, so here's the agenda, what we are going to talk about. And with that, I want to turn it to Emily, and you can just click the slides.
Thank you, Yulia. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Emily Brown. As Yulia mentioned, I'm a project manager with Civitas. We are a legal and consulting firm based out of Sacramento, and we specialize in the formation and the renewal of special assessment districts or tourism improvement districts, such as the Pacifica HBID that Yulia described. And so I'll start with comparing the 1989 law, which your current district was formed under, and then discuss the benefits of converting to the 94 law. So the 1989 Parking and Business Improvement Area Law only allows assessments on businesses. City councils can form the district without petitions requesting it. Basically, the district can be formed as long as there's no majority protest. The city appoints an advisory board which governs the district, and the district is limited to one-year terms, so it must renew on an annual basis with an annual report to council. And the Property and Business Improvement District Law of 1994 allows assessments on parcels or real property. It does require a majority petition to form the district, so the law requires that there must be signed petitions from business owners who will pay over 50% of the assessment. The law also allows the city to assign an owners association to manage the district, which must be a private nonprofit corporation. Usually the stakeholders or the lodging business owners will make up the board of directors, so they decide how the funds are spent and decide which services are provided. And that all goes into the management district plan that outlines the assessment rate, the services, the budget parameters, governance, and any other details on how the district will run. Another benefit of the 94 district is that it may be formed for an initial 5-year term and then can be renewed for subsequent 10-year terms. The law also requires that the Owners Association must follow Brown Act and Public Records Act, and it does still require an annual report to council. So just a quick summary of the two. The 89 law does not have a petition requirement. It's managed by an advisory board appointed by the city, and it's limited to 1-year term. Whereas the 94 law does require majority support via signed petitions. It allows management of the district by a private nonprofit within the parameters of the management district plan. There's still an annual report requirement and can be formed up to 5 years. There's over, I think, around 112 tourism improvement districts in California today. The majority of those are formed pursuant to the 94 law, and these are just some of the recent conversions. Most recently, the San Francisco Peninsula. You may remember we were here at council, I think about a year or two ago, to grant consent for the city of Pacifica to be included in the county-wide, the San Francisco Peninsula TID. So they're the most recent conversion. And just kind of quickly summarizing the benefits of the 94 district. Again, it is driven by the hotel owners. So the district is created by lodging owners for lodging owners, and the lodging owners are managing the district through that owners association. The district is specifically tailored to each unique destination. And again, the lodging owners create the management district plan, which outlines how the district is governed. The 94 law also has several checks and balances to ensure transparency and accountability. The annual reports are still a requirement. They must follow Brown Act and Public Records Act. And there's also an opportunity each year for lodging businesses to terminate the district if they are unhappy with the services or the management of the district. So each year on the anniversary of the formation, there's the opportunity for lodging owners to submit protest to disestablish the district. So they're not locked into anything, but the 5-year term does allow for long-term planning and larger scale projects that require longer term contracts. So the steps to form the 94 district, we began this process in January of last year. Several meetings with city staff, been working closely with the Economic Development Department, to gather the necessary data to bring budget projections and assessment scenarios to the lodging community, mostly the current HBID board. So many of the hotel owners in Pacifica, they made up our steering committee, and we reviewed their options with them and discussed the parameters of the new district. At the time, they had decided on a 1% assessment rate. I will say that the percentage model is the most common assessment methodology that we do see in these tourism improvement districts because they allow for the most flexibility and the most growth throughout the term of the district. So at that time, the steering committee had decided on a 1% assessment rate and had decided to include short-term rentals in the new district so that they would be paying their fair share as they would be benefiting from the services. So we put those parameters into a management district plan, which was approved by the steering committee, brought that management plan to petition. We received the necessary support, so we did receive signed petitions from 5 of the 8 hotels in support of the 1% assessment, which would allow us to move forward with the legal process. However, at the time, there was another short-term rental agenda item before council, so we decided to delay bringing the item forward. And so that brings us to the second part of this process. We decided to pick this process up again in January, not on this timeline, but we brought the item back to the HBID board to confirm that they wanted to move forward with the new 94 district. At that time, the board was not as certain about the 1% assessment, but they did want to form the district still, and they discussed instead keeping the dollar per night assessment. So with the 94 law, it does allow us to move forward with the city council process since we do have the signed petitions. However, it's very specific in that we can only make changes at the final hearing. So I just want to make it clear that tonight, with the adoption of the resolution of intention, we're not asking for approval or finalization of anything. It's just allowing us to continue the conversation and to move forward with the next steps of the process, which would include mailing a notice to all of the lodging business owners that would include instructions and the time and place for the upcoming public meeting and the public hearing. So they would have the opportunity to provide protest or public testimony. Public meeting would be held on March 24th, and the final hearing scheduled for April 28th. And that is when we would be bringing a revised management district plan with the updated rates to council for final approval. With the approval of the new district, the 89 district would expire at the end of June, and the new district would begin at the beginning of the fiscal year. And so just a quick summary of the district parameters that were decided on by our steering committee and the HBID board. They did decide to take advantage of the full 5-year term, so beginning in July 2025 through 2030. The district would be managed by a private nonprofit, which the city and the lodging owners will initiate an RFP process to choose the right nonprofit, and they would form a committee of the lodging business owners that would be making the decisions on how the district would be operated. And again, they are still required to submit annual reports, follow the Brown Act and the Public Records Act. I won't go through each line item here, but these were some of the services that the hotels were excited to pursue in the new district. Managing the Visit Pacifica website, promoting the new district and Pacifica in high visibility tourism outlets, SFO, Giants, 49ers programs, the production of special events to drive visitors to Pacifica, continuing the workation program, things like that, that the board of directors of the nonprofit would meet to discuss exactly how the funds are spent. And this is just straight from the management district plan. The budget will change. This is from the 1% assessment budget projections. And I'll turn it over to Yulia in just a second to go over some of the numbers. But this is just showing that 90% of the total funds are required to be spent on sales, marketing, and destination development programs. And then there's just the necessary overhead for administration and the reserve fund. So with that, I'll turn it back to Yulia to go over the budget projections.
Thank you, Emily. So over the next few slides, we will talk about assessment basis and the preliminary budget. Again, this is just very preliminary budget, what we estimated a year ago based on the 1% assessment that was originally approved by BID board and was included in the petition. The BID board, as Emily mentioned, recently changed the direction from to recommend assessment based on dollar value per night per stay. And the reason for this was affordability concerns for the guests. So essentially, they were concerned about the pass-through charges to the guests being unaffordable with recent changes in TOT and conversion of the SF Peninsula BID as well. So over the next two slides, we'll show the ranges for both assessments based on percentage base and based on dollar per stay value. So here on the slide, you can see assessment, the percentage assessment basis, and the shaded column shows what the original petition was based on. On the 94 district law, and we were projecting originally that almost 286,000 to be generated by the district at estimated cost to guests at $1.50 per stay. We also estimated, as you can see, projected assessments and the cost to guests as it goes up and down slightly, 0.5% above and below, so just to see these ranges. And on the next slide, after the recent BID meeting, we ran these numbers, what the district would generate on the dollar per stay per night assessments, and you can see that we are projecting about 125,000 for, again, shaded areas, what the recent bid direction was for the formation of the district. And you can see here that the lion's share of this assessment will be coming from hotels guests as opposed to STRs. And again, if we go back for a second to the percentage-based assessment, when we ran these numbers, we found one interesting thing that you can see the reducing assessment to 0.5% will actually make the assessment more equitable between hotel guests and the STRs and the lodging providers. So more equitable for all lodging providers. And while the hotel guests will actually have the lower cost per stay, so it's a little bit lower than $1 per night per stay that was recommended by the bid board. So here you can see it's estimated at 75 cents per stay, and which actually this option essentially addresses the board's concern for making the assessment more affordable for hotel guests. We did not have this analysis ready for the board meeting, so the direction was changed at the meeting, so we couldn't really communicate this to board, and we actually didn't know that at that time, so until we ran these numbers. And yet the alternative direction was given at the meeting for dollar per night stay assessment. And I also want to highlight that we are bringing it to you pursuant to the formation of the district. Again, no final decision is made here at this time, and it's within council's purview to adopt, revise, change, reduce, modify the proposed assessment as needed, whether it's to change the assessment to $1 per stay as the PID directed, or provide alternative direction to staff, and we'll talk about it a little bit, what those directions might be. So with that, I want to turn it back to Emily right now to go over the procedural.
Thank you. Yeah, so just to kind of wrap up, again, tonight, adoption of the resolution does not finalize any of the parameters, just allows us to move forward with the noticing and hearing process. The state code does allow for a modification to the assessment at the final hearing. As you can see from the code, it allows only a reduction to the assessment, but must be done at the final hearing. So with adoption of the resolution tonight, we would mail notices to all of the lodging businesses with the time and place of the upcoming public meeting on March 24th and the final hearing on April 28th. At the final hearing is when we would bring the revised management district plan with the updated rates. Council would hold a public hearing, and with the adoption of the resolution of formation, then the district would officially be established. And as mentioned before, the 89 district would expire at the end of June, and the new district would begin collecting July 1st. And up until that time, we would send all of the necessary notices to the short-term rentals and the hotels, notifying them when the new assessment would begin.
And that brings us to recommended action for today. So we are asking that you adopt the resolution of intent to establish the Pacifica Tourism Marketing District, set the public meeting date for March 24, 2025, set the public hearing date for April 28, 2025. And we're also asking for council direction whether you want us to proceed with the current $1 per night assessment as recommended by BID board, or if you want staff to go back to BID board with the alternative 0.5% assessment with the information that we just shared with you before the public hearing. So if they would be on board for this lower option that presents lower cost impact to hotel guests while generating more revenues for the district, for the marketing programs that they may have in mind. And that's the item for today.
Thank you very much. Does the council have questions for staff? I'm seeing some public comment. We can do that first if you like, or did you want a clarifying question beforehand?
Just one. You talked about the board, and I assume the board is all the hotel owners right now because the short-term rentals haven't been a part of it. I don't think this is part of that discussion, but does that change? Like, what is the voice the short-term rental owners will have as part of this discussion?
That's something that we could decide moving forward. There would certainly be the opportunity for short-term rental representatives to join the board and participate. In our experience in other districts, they tend not to participate as much, but we can certainly extend the invitation, and they're welcome to participate as much as they would like.
Is there some like balance, like a hotel with a certain number of units versus one with a few, I'm sorry, I don't really know how the bid and the board work right now. I'm looking forward to hearing from my council members who are in those discussions.
Presently, the bid consists of hoteliers, one representative from each hotel. They have an equal vote. So it isn't a weighted percentage based on the number of rooms or anything like that. And it's all hotels, not STRs. But on that note, I did have a question about the formation of the board.
Mm-hmm.
If this is moved forward, we do the public hearing. If there isn't a majority protest on April 28th, then, and if the council approved it, then the new district would be formed, and then the board would be established? Or would the existing board continue? That's number one. Number two, the formation or the management, or it needs to become a private nonprofit organization, is what I remember you presenting. And at this moment, I don't believe the bid is a private nonprofit corporation. Is that accurate?
That's correct. So technically, there would be two paths forward. One, which is what we've been discussing with the board so far, is that the district or the city would contract with an existing nonprofit organization, and they would carry out the day-to-day tasks, run the programs, provide the marketing services, things like that, and then they would have a governance committee, which would likely be made up of the same board members that are on the board today, and they could decide what the structure of that board looks like, if it mirrors the structure of the existing board, or if they want to open up a seat or two for short-term rental operators to participate. They do have that option. The second option would be to form a new nonprofit, but there are costs associated with that, and administrative oversight and costs, and so that would be another path. But the focus for now has just been forming the district, and then decisions on the governance could be made by the board.
Okay, that answers the questions I had, except for one other one. If you could go back in the slides, city clerk, I don't know who has the controls. It was before, I believe, or the beginning of the budget presentation portion. Can you go back one more? Okay, then I think it might have been just stated. Can you go forward one? So, and one more. So, and one more. It's, I'm looking for the table in the budget presentation. I think it's the other way.
What are you looking
The table in the budget presentation. That
Table for the dollar?
was
or the
comparing,
table
yes.
Ah.
So when it, in the bottom row, it says estimated cost to guest, and that is per, I think I heard you say per stay. But I wanted to clarify if that means per night or
night,
per,
yes.
per night.
I meant per night, yeah.
Okay. And it really would be, I mean, if you stayed at the hotel for 3 nights, it would be an assessment of either $1 per night or 5% or 0.75% or 1% assessment of the total
Yes,
amount for the lodging.
for the lodging, yeah. So it's a per room, per night.
Okay, can you show the comparison one more time between the $1 and the slide you just had on 1 second ago? So the hotels are actually paying slightly more, if I understood it. I think I heard that it was less.
What I said, the total assessment will be slightly more, but the cost to guests in hotels will be less than the cost to guests in STR.
Right. Can you flick it one more time? Right. Okay. That answers my questions. Thank you. And we do have 3 cards for public comment. So I'm going to open public comment on this item. Cliff Lawrence, Sue Degree, and Bill Meyer-Hoff.
I like the idea of a lot of conversation for this. And for tourism, I think I've mentioned before that so I'm suggesting that when you have this discussion, of course there'll be public input, is that the assets that the city already has, which were the environment, which would be the ocean and the trails and the hills and things, and your historical society and your Sanchez Art Center and your music and your Spendthrift, that those entities, nonprofit, been working for a long, long time together, willing to help the hotels by, presenting activities, especially the hotels used to say it was the middle of the week that was hard for them. But anyway, those entities, I think, should be part of the conversation, because what we need is revenue, and what we need is some cohesiveness and to work together for revenue. The other thing that my usual is, it's the Brown Act, yay. And the thing that concerns me is if they only have those wonderful, succinct, nothing action minutes, or even the summary minutes, I think even you are going to feel a little bit like, what? Like the rest of us do. But at least in your position, you can ask questions and say, wait a minute, this action thing says such and such a thing happened. We're talking about 4 sentences at the most. Can you fill us in? Well, I think the public wants to have more, what we will call is transparency. What's going on in the mind of the people? What makes them come to that conclusion? How did they discuss it? So we can see if we weren't there, and that you can see if you weren't there, that you can understand the mindset of where they're coming about till they get to these. So if it's only those succinct things, it won't work.
Thank you. Cliff Lawrence and Bill Meyerhoff. Right, Bill? Yeah? Okay. Thank you.
Hello. Feel I should have better prepared for this. You asked the question whether it was per night. Can I also conclude that it is not per guest? It's not per guest.
It's per night, per room. Oh, sorry.
We'll answer the questions later.
Yeah, okay, so just to get, seeking clarity on whether this fee is applied to the party, the entire party, or to each individual in the party per night. Are these, another question is everybody who's going to get taxed in this, do they have a opportunity to vote on it? Where I see the hotels is largely the Rockaway area, but where I understand you want to make a move to create more business would be the Shar Park area, which isn't really your hotel area. So got some questions on that. And I think that's it for right now. Thank you.
Thank you. And Bill Meyerhoff.
Thank you. I just had a couple questions to ask, just so I could clarify how it works. The charges is to the guests, just like the TOT tax is done. So it's on top of their room rate, correct? Like it's been with the previous bid? Okay. Does the city collect and manage the money? And how is that collected from the hotels? Does it go through the city, or is it the bid or this improvement district handle the money themselves?
We'll address the questions at
Okay,
staff
I'm just
address.
trying to understand how it all
understand.
works.
Okay.
And then with the short-term rentals, did I understand that it is planned to include that? I mean, it should be. I know, years ago when I was involved with the Chamber of Commerce that, the hotels had the TOT tax, but short-term rentals did not. And that was tough on the hotels because it wasn't a level playing field. This isn't a lot of money, but, every little bit, counts. Yeah, I think that's all the questions I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any? No calls on Zoom, so my apologies, Cliff Lawrence, for putting you on the spot. I know you wanted to speak, and I also have a card for you on the next item. Is that correct? Yes, thank you. Okay, closing public comment, back to council. I don't have any lights. Does the council member to my left wish to speak?
I think it'd be good to answer the questions.
Yes.
That were asked. We could start there.
Okay.
And then, yeah, I have a few things to say.
Okay. So I noted a few of the questions. Did you also? First question that I noted is the fee applied to the number of people or to the charge for the room occupancy?
The charges would apply to the room in case of the hotel or the unit in case of STR. So it does not apply to number of guests.
The number of guests, okay. Is everyone who is going to be taxed being provided the opportunity to give input?
Yes, so following tonight's meeting, a notice will be mailed to each lodging business owner, and they will have instructions on how to provide protest if they choose, or how to provide public testimony at the upcoming 2 meetings.
And that would include the short-term rental
Yes.
businesses, okay? Does the city collect and manage the money, or does the bid or that body collect and manage the money?
So currently, the BID assessments are remitted to the city together with the TOT. So the hotels collect and remit assessments to the city. The city does not charge any administrative fee at this point for managing the bid.
So the bid of $1 per room per night is collected by the hotels and remitted to the city when the TOT payments are remitted.
Correct. And they're deposited in a separate fund for the BID to use. So these are not the city funds. These are funds of the BID.
And there's no charge from the city for that handling of those funds?
Correct. At this point, there is no.
Okay. I'm sure I missed some questions. You want to go ahead?
And then when there's a nonprofit doing that, then the money will go through them, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
And that's why we estimated that no more than 5% administrative charge.
Okay. Thank you so much for the report tonight. I've been a liaison sitting in on the bid meetings. I know how difficult it has been for everyone. And so thank you for hanging in there in those meetings. It's good to see the numbers. I think it's going to be very important for them to see the numbers, and I really look forward to them coming here. And so I'm encouraging every single one of you all out there to come to the public hearing, because we really want to hear from you, because you can move forward together that way. And I think we have a really good opportunity, to move it from the city to a nonprofit to the bid. Great. I don't know how you feel about that, Mayor, but I know that, we've been in those meetings.
That's certainly been the goal and the intention all along. It just has been a process because we had to go through this, moving from 1989 to 1994 rules. We've heard it before. We put it on the shelf. We're bringing it back. There's been a lot of action in the realm of temporary occupancy tax and these kinds of revenues. As was shown on the slides, at one point, the San Francisco Peninsula had a 1% assessment that it brought forward and was discussed by the bid, and the bid members gave their input and decided, and if I recall, the council approved ultimately that collection or that addition of 1% to the hotel bills. However, I believe, maybe I'm wrong, that also applied to short-term rentals. No. because we didn't have 1994 in place?
San Francisco Peninsula just elected not to include short-term rentals this time. They could have, but they didn't.
Okay.
So,
And they operate under the 1994 rules?
correct, yes.
Okay, so each year they can,
So after, their initial term was for 5 years, and then at the end of that term, they can reevaluate and determine the renewal district parameters.
but they still have the opportunity to meet and ratchet the 1% up or down by 0.25% annually. Is that, do I understand those rules?
I don't believe they have that option written into their plan. Currently, the assessment rate is 0.75%.
Oh, it's not one. Sorry, I misspoke. Okay. So then, on top of that, we, the city of Pacifica, had a measure on the ballot for increasing our temporary occupancy tax from 12% to 15%. That overlapped in time the discussion of this. And I think it's a fair statement from my point of view as a liaison to say that there was some confusion and some not completely understanding the order of operations, if you will, or what exactly was being discussed at what time. And certainly from the January meeting, that was evident. And so the decision was made at that time, what was it, before the body that day, was to approve the 1% that they had previously discussed and they had previously agreed to. However, in reflection of the time that had passed, the approval of the Measure M, I can't remember, the TOT measure last fall, the discussion ensued among the members, and they went back and forth. The one thing they were interested in for sure was including short-term rentals.
Yes.
That was very clear. However, they were concerned about the 1%. And so the hybrid, I guess I'll call it, option that they came up with and voted on was to change the rules to 1994, but keep the $1, not make it a 1%. So what we have before us tonight, and I'm sure the council's like, yeah, I know, I read the report, yeah, I know. I'm just saying, I want to make sure I'm comprehending in our, recitation of what happened. There is on packet page 271, well, really 270 and 271, under alternate action, and we saw this in the tables, there is an analysis of what the $1 per room per night would generate, and that's $125,000 per year. However, looking at a 0.5% assessment, not a 1% assessment, actually turns out to generate $143,000 a year. More funds, and not actually estimated cost to the guest is less. It ends up being 75 cents versus $1. So, I mean, it seems small when it's like, oh, $1, 75 cents, whatever, but it's really the accumulation of all of these amounts among all of the hotel nights and the short-term rentals. And so this is new information.
Yes, it is.
And therefore, long-winded, sorry about that, I am of the mind that this should be discussed with the bid. This information that they did not have before them in the meeting in January, they should have the opportunity to have this information beyond the chance to come and speak during the hearing.
Which is, I thought that's going to happen, correct?
Well, let me, oops, sorry. So we are actually looking for direction from the council whether we want to go back to bid and communicate this information. And alternative would be to proceed with what bid recommended. $1 per night per stay, and that's the council can make this determination at the public hearing at the end of this process. But again, the alternative is for us to go to bid, communicate this information as we ran the numbers once they gave us direction, and ask them if they want to stick with the recommendation they made at January meeting or change it. And we still have time to do it and bring it back to you with this information by the public hearing.
So, as I said, I personally think this should be referred back to the bid. However, I also would like to vote for request, if at all possible, an in-person meeting, or maybe an in-person meeting with a hybrid option. I know our city council, our lovely city civic center conference rooms enable that. We are enabled for that. And I realize it's tough to get everyone together. It is truly challenging. These are really busy people running their businesses. However, I just feel like they need the opportunity to understand this next piece. And then I'm going to say one last thing, and then I'm going to turn it to the council, to Councilmember Wright. Is it possible in the context or in the process of sending the letter that you were describing, would it be feasible to include some printed information like those two tables that you showed us? The $1, the 0.5%, right? Because sometimes a picture's worth 1,000 words, because I just said 1,000 words at least. And I wonder if that might clarify, especially for the short-term rental owners, right? They're going to receive this notice and they're not part of the bid. They're going to go, what? Or they're just going to go, oh, okay, cost of doing business. We don't know. But just to round out and clarify the information.
Yeah, we can definitely include some kind of cover letter or informational handout or something like that.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Wright.
I see a lot of wonderful opportunities for STRs and hotels to work together for the betterment of all, but has it been your experience that there has been any possibilities of any divisions between the two, considering that they're very different business models and a very different product?
We tend to see them work pretty well together. They have the common goal of increasing visitation and driving more stays to their business. So not that I've seen, especially, in a smaller city like Pacifica, any kind of promotion or event is going to bring guests to the city. So hotels and short-term rentals, I think both will benefit equally.
And with 8 hotels and 150 potential STRs, it seems to me that you could set up a board that there would be a big power difference, and there seems to also be a big difference in terms of contributions, with the overwhelming majority of the contributions coming from the hotels, which could also be seen as a power imbalance. How do you propose resolving that difference?
I think it's something that we could discuss with the new board and determining what the structure of the board looks like. We can set certain parameters that, there's a certain level of representation that could be based on how much they're paying in the assessment, or it could be based on the number of operators, whether that's short-term rental owners or hotel owners.
And would it be, in your opinion, I assume you think it's better to have them both together as opposed to having them separate, since they're such different business models?
Yes, because they would be agreeing on the programs together. So I think it would have to be one board working together.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Bowles.
I like the idea of meeting with the group, if we're going to change the direction that they gave. I mean, is that going to be able to happen before the 24th, or is there a chance that those dates might need to slide?
No, that would be the plan, for us to go back to the bid and have this meeting before and keep the schedule as it is right now.
Okay. And then I'm a little, I guess I'm not sure how you do your math with the amount that you're projecting for the short-term rentals and knowing that we might be cutting in half the number of short-term rentals. So, yeah, what are your thoughts about that? And are we actually going to be, is one or the other better if those numbers go down? I guess I haven't really analyzed.
Correct. So the numbers will probably change eventually when the STR ordinance is in full effect, but it's really hard to project it right now, so we just estimated it on the number of STRs we have currently and the gross rent they're charging and what
The
those
number of
projected
nights
would be.
that they rent out to. Okay. And are there any other cities that charge based on like number of rooms instead of just a number of stay? Like a hotel would have 1 bedroom and short-term rentals, might have 2 to 5.
I'll let Emily to answer this because it's her bread and butter, but administratively it would be very difficult to manage or determine what number of rooms should be.
Yeah, there's none that I know of, at least as it applies to short-term rentals. There are districts where they have a room count threshold for hotels. Only hotels with 50 or more rooms have an assessment, but haven't heard that for short-term rentals. As Yulia mentioned, I think it would be pretty challenging administratively.
Okay, thank you.
I might add to that, if it's the percentage model, then that's built in. So a 2 or 3 bedroom STR is going to be more expensive to rent than a 1 bedroom STR, so it's kind of built in.
Councilmember Beer.
Yeah, thank you. I really think it's very important to get the information to the bid before the public hearing. So thank you for putting that option here for us. I love the idea of an in-person meeting. These are the hardest people I've ever seen to get together because they are all boots on the ground. And so, I mean, being in person creates way better relationships than black, names on the screen.
Right.
Which I think has been very difficult. So I would encourage an in-person meeting. Let's see what happens.
We have to have creative scheduling.
Yeah. But thank you so much.
Thank you. The action that we need to take is to declare the intention to establish the Pacifica Tourism Marketing District,
It's adopt the resolution.
to adopt the resolution because,
Say adopt the resolution attached to the staff report.
okay.
That could be the motion.
Someone want to make a motion? Would you like a drink of water?
Thank you. All right, I'll move to adopt the resolution entitled "A Resolution of the City Council of the City of Pacifica declaring its intention to establish the Pacifica Tourism Marketing District and fixing the time and place of a public meeting and a public hearing as stated in the agenda." Is that good enough? Okay.
Second.
All right, please vote.
And with the motion made by Councilmember Beer and seconded by Councilmember Wright, the motion passes unanimously.
Wonderful. All right, folks, there's one item left on our agenda, except for then, don't forget, council and staff communications. I would like to take a 5-minute break before we go to our last item, if that's okay with you. All right, thank you. We'll return at 9:32.
Recording stopped.
All right. We are moving to item 12 on our agenda, which is appointments to the Beautification Advisory Committee, Economic Development Committee, Parks, Beaches, and Recreation Commission, and Planning Commission. One to each of those bodies. Do I need to read the ending terms and all that right now? No. Okay, good. All right. And Sarah Coffey, our city clerk, will present the staff report.
Council members and mayor, the city recently recruited for one position on the Beautification Advisory Committee for a full 4-year term to expire March 2029. One position on the Economic Development Committee for a partial term to expire October 2028. One position on the Parks, Beaches, and Recreation Commission for a partial term to expire May 2028. And one position on the Planning Commission for a full 4-year term to expire March 2029. The application deadline was February 7th and extended to February 12th. The applicant interviews were held by a special city council meeting held on February 25th, 2025. The city received 3 timely applications for the Beautification Advisory Committee, 4 timely applications for the Economic Development Committee, 4 timely applications for the Parks, Beaches, and Recreation Commission, and 4 timely applications for the Planning Commission. One applicant for the Parks, Beaches, and Recreation Commission subsequently withdrew their application, resulting in 3 eligible applicants for the PB&R Commission. And one applicant indicated interest in multiple committee commission recruitments. The Pacifica Municipal Code allows for membership on the committees and commissions for eligible appointments to a person who is a qualified elector of the city, except in the case where a member could be under the age of 18 at the time of their appointment, provided that they're a resident of the city, or members of committees who are not qualified electors or residents of the city, but who may be appointed that are deemed to provide expertise or where they may be representative of a particular section of the community, such as commercial. Lists of all the applicants under consideration have been provided in the agenda packet, and the council may now openly choose to deliberate as to the candidates that they would support to nominate for appointments to each of the vacancies. Followed by, and then following the deliberation, council member would make a motion to appoint a named individual to that position for the stated committee, and we'd go for a second and vote for the named individual.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Bowles. Mayor Pro Tem Bowles. Pardon me.
I just had a question before we started. I guess I've been doing this for a couple years now, and maybe I've missed it, but I don't remember in those 2 years, so there are questions that come, with the application, and then there are questions that we ask in interviews, and I don't remember, for the people who aren't able to attend, the questions for the interviews being sent to them for written answers. That has been done before? Okay. I guess I hadn't noticed, and it's tricky because the interviews are scheduled when we're available, and they're not all necessarily available, and so I can see why that would be more fair. But there seems to also be a little bit of an unfair advantage if people get the written questions, that they can sit at their computer and do their research, versus people that we're asking, and then you don't get a sense of how people necessarily think on their feet.
I think that they're sent the questions if they can't be there.
Right.
Not if they don't want to be there. You know what I mean?
understand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like something
Anyway.
happened and they're homesick, or,
Anyway, I was just a little concerned. I didn't remember that the last 2 years, and so.
It hasn't happened as much, for sure. I remember noting that night, wow, there's a lot of written answers to these questions.
So that's something the city clerk offers when someone is unable to attend?
Yes, and we've done that in the past recruitments because because it involves the full council and it needs to be an open, publicly agendized meeting. So we don't have the flexibility to, navigate individual schedules. And if somebody has, a pre-existing conflict with the scheduled date and time, we offer to provide the answers for written response and provide those to council in the packet that you review.
To that point, though, I think it might be fairer if we provide the questions to one party, we should provide the questions to all parties.
I agree with that, even though the people who are going to the interview, they should have the question ahead of time also, to give them the same opportunity to research the answer.
Maybe when we talk about committees and commissions, we can talk about that part, add that in, I don't know.
Yeah, I can see.
That's a different conversation, I think.
is.
Yeah.
And I have some questions that I would want to look into.
Yeah.
With regard to, public availability of all the answers, if that is our formal process. I mean, so, and I don't have the answer here, but I don't think it's something that I would want the council to decide tonight.
No, not at all. No.
No.
I appreciate the notion of putting it on a future discussion. Thank you.
I would
If
like
sorry.
to speak to how happy I was to see so many different applicants and how hard it is to make this decision, and how glad I am that so much of my community showed up and wanted to serve. It makes me very proud to be a Pacifican. I'm very happy to be a Pacifican, and I'm glad that other people feel strongly about our community, so much so that they're moved to serve.
Thank you for saying that. I remember you saying something else at the end of the night that we interviewed. Oh my gosh, this is going to be really hard.
It is.
And I said, welcome to my world, because we've been doing this for 6 years now and 3 times a year, and this happens a lot.
And we have to say no to more people than we can say yes to.
Correct.
I have to want to abstain from everything because I don't want to say no to people.
I know. And I've always want to go, can't we just increase the number of people on the body? Can't we just add more spaces? So to that point, thank you for bringing that up. If I may, I would like to reiterate what, we say during the interviews all the time. We have X number of applicants for Y number of spaces, and we can only choose one. So if you are not chosen this round, please do stay tuned and feel free to apply in the future. And also, these committees are Brown Act, just like the last item where we talked about the bid situation. The new bid would be Brown Act compliant. That means the public can attend and participate. Many of the committees have subcommittees. They're active. OSPAC is active. Beautification Advisory Committee is actively doing projects. So anyway, there's many ways to engage. All right. And now it is the council's turn to engage in the discussion.
Mayor, thank you.
He doesn't
Kevin
have a
Woodhouse, City
light.
Manager. I just wanted to highlight what Councilmember Beer said, that if the council's interested in revisiting the interview question process, then as a reminder, as we go through the commission review of charters, following that at the end or at some point in that process is administrative tasks like revisiting the commission and committee handbook, and that would be an appropriate time to talk about that topic and actually build in a section in the handbook about, the interview question process for committees and commissions or whatever.
I like that.
Would that also give us the opportunity to talk about perhaps appointing an alternate? I mean, I know we do that for ourselves. It would be an opportunity to give another citizen an opportunity to serve in addition and make it easier to get a quorum on some of these committees as well? Would that be the
Kind
appropriate
of
time?
like jury selection when you have an alternate and then they fill in, they're ready.
I think, oh, sorry.
I was just going to quickly say, you could do it during that process or at the discussion about each committee or commission's charter, if the council wanted to consider that. And that sounds like that could get pretty complicated pretty fast, but I'll defer to the
Well,
city
yeah,
attorney.
and what I would say is, I definitely think it should be part of your, charter and committee annual review, because there may be some commissions that would not work well with an alternate, like the planning commission,
Yeah.
right? Because you have a lot of land use decisions and there's due process issues, and so you can't just take one, planning commissioner and replace him with another one who hasn't had any experience with that particular item. So it does raise issues. It may be appropriate for some committees or commissions, but not all. So, which is why I think it makes sense to do it on a case-by-case basis when you're dealing with the charters for each committee.
And just as a follow-up, if we've been talking for a while about revising the questions that we ask in the meeting, is that something that we need to wait for the handbook, or is that something that the council could have an ad hoc committee to review those questions?
Don't we have one?
Do we have one?
An ad hoc committee for, not for specifically for the questions, but for committees and commissions? Didn't we appoint that?
For the committees and commissions, but not necessarily the questions that we ask. But I mean, we could just assign that to you all.
I guess I would say to be flexible, I think that the ad hoc committee that's been appointed could take that up as a matter of, refreshing interview questions and weighing in on that. The committee is intended to shape questions that are going to, survey questions that are going to be asked to the different committees and commissions whose charters are coming before the council. And I think it relates, so could be another item.
Great. Wonderful. All right, then. So how do we wish to proceed, council? Oh, there's public comment. You're so right. I have one card for sure. Cliff Lawrence, who submitted a card in a very timely way earlier this meeting, and then I jumped him right ahead into item 11. So please, Cliff.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak to this. I think the Planning Commission is one of the real strengths of this city. And we have a candidate that has offered her services a number of ways, a number of times. And I'd really like to give her a chance at this. I hope you will, in naming Marjorie Davis, please.
Thank you. I have a card from Kimberly Finale.
Good evening, council members. Kimberly Finale here this evening, speaking as a private citizen. I would like to advocate for Cherie Chan, Parks, Beach, and Recreation. I can't think of a person with more abundant energy. Cherie is lively, enthusiastic, and brimming with vitality. She's full of life and has a lot of pep in her step. It's not hard to see that Cherie is capable of engaging in and sustaining activities that require a lot of effort and focus. Please consider Cherie for Parks, Beach, and Recreation. I'd really like to see Marjorie Davis get across the finish line to the Planning Commission. Marge is a go-getter and an active participant in many areas which benefit our lovely city and would be an asset to this Planning Commission as we navigate the challenges ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Assistant City Clerk, do we have anybody on Zoom?
We have one raised hand. It is for Suzanne Moore.
Please go ahead.
Hi, good evening, everyone. And like Councilmember Wright, I just want to express some gratitude to all the Pacificans who've expressed an interest in serving on these various commissions. Really grateful for their generosity and that they want to serve our community. But I do want to acknowledge two candidates that I think would be wonderful to have these positions. And for our Planning Commission, Marge Davis, who is quite knowledgeable. And for PB&R, Cherie Chan, who is also a very gifted person. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no further yellow cards, we'll bring it back to, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the council. Do we wish to proceed in order, or is there a preference for starting with one or another of the committees?
Order.
Order. All right, then the one I see first on the list is Beautification Advisory Committee. We need one person for a full 4-year term to expire March of 2029. Okay.
Okay, well, for
I don't have any
starters,
lights.
we had, awesome people coming out. People have come, this is their second time, third time coming out, so thank you for that. I think that, for me, I think Linda Jonas deserves her last, as she calls it, her last 4 years of public service. She's so excited to continue the work, and she's been doing the work over and over and over again, and so I would move to appoint Linda Jonas for that position.
Are there other discussions?
I would like to remind people that even if they don't get appointed to beautification, that I know I've been known to show up at one, and I've seen a few of you there, and that they still can have the opportunity to serve and to get to know people, which, in this case, I think goes a long way towards getting on the commission at a later date. And I, too, would also like to support her.
I don't really know the committee and what they need, and that's part of the difficulty in this job, right? Because we all serve on different committees and kind of have a sense of who's on there now, what districts they represent, what skills they bring, what skills might be needed. So I look to you all who are on that committee, to help advise us in those decisions too. I mean, it's super hard to say no to Linda, because she's been doing the work and is one of the most active members, and yet we have some really talented younger people who bring different skills, right, that might be helpful. But I will follow your direction as and advices.
Well, having been the liaison to Beautification Advisory Committee for a while now, I can say that without any doubt that Linda has been a leader on that committee, and really, she would say pusher and nagger, perhaps, but really did a lot of moving forward on the beautification, the mural subcommittee, and the concept of having murals, and, that piece of our code and our ordinance, or whatever it is, that resolution that we have, really codifies it. But her vision, based on visiting other cities where there are so many murals to visit and go and see them, and the brightness that they bring and all of this, was really inspirational. And, all you have to do is look around and see that many others in town agree with that idea, because it's really blossomed. So my inclination is to support Linda. And if we have no further discussions, do we have Councilmember Espinoza? Would you like to weigh in on this?
I will support Linda too.
So then I think we have a motion and a second. It was Councilmember Beer and Councilmember Wright, City Clerk. So we can go ahead and vote, please.
The motion by Councilmember Beer to appoint Linda Jonas to the Beautification Advisory Committee, seconded by Councilmember Wright, passes unanimously.
Very well, thank you. Okay, now we are on to the Economic Development Committee. We need one. It is a partial term to expire October of 2028. I don't have lights, but I'm willing to have anyone raise their hand or go first.
I'm going to let someone else go
Yeah, Mary, okay.
Well, I can go first. I was just really impressed with Paige Miller, and the one Economic Development Committee meeting I went to, he was there, and I think he's been attending regularly, you know, as a small business owner and member of the public and, you know, commenting on the side. But he really brought a lot of knowledge of what's happening with the businesses, big and small, in the area. And my understanding is there's not another brick and mortar small business owner on that committee that might be helpful.
Paige Miller is the name I have highlighted on my list. I too would support that.
Yeah, I believe it's his turn. I believe it's time for a shot. He came out last time, and he's been to so many meetings, and he really does care about our small businesses, and he knows what it takes to run one, and he's passionate and smart.
Councilmember Espinoza, anything?
I support him too.
All right, and I can support that as well. And with the motion from Councilmember Bowles and second from Councilmember Wright.
Sure.
Please vote.
And the motion to appoint Paige Miller to the Economic Development Committee made by Mayor Pro Tem Bowles and seconded by Councilmember Wright passes unanimously.
And again, everybody who comes out, they're all so good, and it really is, we really do leave the interviews feeling so good about the amazing people that we have in our community. I think that's one of the best parts, is seeing everyone come out, but this is the worst part. It's really hard.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not fun at all. All right, moving on to number 3, it's the appointment to Parks, Beaches, and Recreation Commission. We need one person. It's one partial term to expire May of 2028. I don't have any lights. Who would like to speak?
I would like to. For Park, Beach, and Recreation, I mean, there were so many good people. It's hard to choose one person. But I wanted to go for Mike Hudson, or Watson. He's from District 1, and I don't know how many people from District 1 are in any other committee. And the fact that he showed up, I wanted to give him my appreciation to apply for. He also applied for the planning. I know Jerry is a good candidate too, but I only have one vote. So I'm gonna go for Mike Watkins.
Watkins. Okay. Other comments? Any other?
I'll go ahead and make a comment. Thank you for that. I was kind of hoping you were going to say that. I'm not going to support that, but I'm really glad that you said it. I think that's really important. I think based on the interviews, I think Cherie gave actually a really great interview. And so I would like to put her name up.
I too was impressed with Cherie's energy and her answers.
Yeah.
And I felt quite comfortable with her as well. But like was said so many times before, and so many of these people were so well qualified, it is not easy making these choices. But I would support Cherie Chen.
And I hear what you're saying, and I do wish that we, and I don't know if, I mean, I know this came up with Planning Commission before, when there was a chance that we were appointing too many people from a particular district that might then have to recuse themselves, but like it would be super helpful to know, you know, what representation we have citywide, you know, on the boards now. I don't know if that's something that Sarah could maybe pull together, you know, because we have everyone's addresses, but so, and I hope that, yeah, Michael could be involved and start coming to meetings and speaking up for District 1, but I too would support Cherie Chan, and I think as a parent of younger children in schools, and that connection with the parks and their programs is just super important.
Okay, I can support that as well. So I think I heard a motion from Councilmember.
There was some motion. So we should make those formal.
A formal motion?
Yeah.
Okay, so do we want to discuss further? And perhaps?
Do you want to say anything else? Or?
I think I just wanted to, like I said, I know there's so many candidates that deserve to be here. I wanted to give my vote to Mike because I don't think there's anyone from District 1 on any of the committee, and I just want to support him, even though if he doesn't win, but to make sure that people will apply again, so they're not like, oh, nobody support me, so why to bother? But I wanted to just say that, and I believe that Cherry is a great candidate too. So we just have one vote, and we cannot vote for everyone. So, but thank you so much for letting me ventilate this.
Thank you.
Well, then I'll move to appoint Cherie Chan to the Park, Beaches, and Recreation Commission.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
That's okay, you can do that. And I had heard the motion to appoint Cherie Chan to the Parks, Beach, and Recreation Commission made by Councilmember Beer and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Bowles. And the vote passes 4-1 with Espinosa opposed.
Okay, thank you. And the final one for this evening is an appointment to the Planning Commission. We need one full 4-year term to expire March of 2029.
I'm kind of partial to this particular one, considering I vacated that seat. And I would like to nominate Marge Davis.
Second.
I agree with that also. I mean, Marge has been involved for a long time, you know, in a lot of the big planning decisions and processes we've been going through over the last few years. And she's such a kind and diplomatic person, and, you know, really good at, she reads drawings and is also just really good at, like, finding the issues and bringing them forward and asking good questions. I think she'd be a really good addition.
We have a motion and a second. I agree with what's been said, and I think did you get the motion, City Clerk Coffey?
I heard the support indicated first by Councilmember Wright and then by Councilmember Espinosa, but not a formal motion. If you could formalize that motion, please.
I'd like to make the formal motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
We're done with it. Thank God.
Okay, Marge, get to work.
Housing element coming up soon.
Did it work? Did she say it?
Waiting for one more vote button. Okay, there we go. And
There
with
we
the
go.
motion made by Councilmember Wright to appoint Marge Davis to the Planning Commission, Seconded by Councilmember Espinosa. The vote passes unanimously.
Thank you. I know that was hard, and I look forward to the participation of all of the applicants in all of the events going forward.
Yes.
Okay, council members, it is time for us to return to our council and staff communications,
Oh, my God.
which we haven't had for like a month.
That is so important.
So, who would like to start?
I want to just get it out.
Please go ahead.
On February 27 and 28, I participated in a 2-day leadership program for newly elected officials in San Mateo County. I love it. It was a good one. We focused on building strong working relationship with other elected leaders, learning about economic development and demographic changes in our county, in finding way to foster more inclusive community. So bringing resources to people who in other way are not, the resources are not there for them, so we want to make sure that everybody gets those resources. And also, the second day, we have Christine Ball. She was there. And it was good to see some of you guys who has been on council for a little bit, and then get your input. Is when you're new to city council, you feel like there's so much to learn. And I'm at the point that I don't even know who I am. I don't know who this woman is anymore. So I'm trying to find myself, to find my voice, to find out what character am I going to play in this role. So it's very, very difficult for me because I didn't have previous experience on any politics or any of the committees. But I'm here to stay, and I'm committed to learning more. And I hope one day I can be like you.
Oh, that was my first chance.
Wow.
So I also attended to the Pacifica Age-Friendly Community Initiative chapter of the Village of the Coastside Network. It was an excellent opportunity to learn how the program can benefit adults in our community, 55 and older, helping them to stay connected and supported, because some of the people, they might not have transportation. They help with transportation. They also give them a lot of resources. It was a good, a lot of people showed up. And that one was at Pedro Point Firehouse. And the group is looking for, they're planning for more meetings, including evenings and weekends. So I already spoke with one of the churches back into District 1 to, Roy wanted to talk to, also bring the resources to District 1. And like I said, it will be a good idea to just go over there and bring some of this, engage some of those 55 and older people. On Saturday, we just cleaned up the plaza on Palmetto. Greg and Sue was there. I worked so hard that this arm is I have some problems with this arm. So, but anyhow, most of the other meetings that we did, so I just left it to you guys. I don't want to take all of them. Thank you for listening, guys.
Thank you.
I can go.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to be on a panel for one of the Leadership Council events for the new council members, and it was quite an honor. I was up there with Eddie Flores and Maurice Goodman and Noelia Corzo. yeah, really, I don't know, talking about standing up for what you believe and being brave in the position that you are and that you're gifted, and just the power of democracy. Some of Maurice Goodwin in particular has had some horrible things happen to him with a recall, but he doesn't regret it at all. He was doing the right thing for the people. And anyway, it's always amazing to be in some of their presences. And yeah, I've learned a lot in 2 years, and I think some of that was helpful to share, and it's actually good for someone who's relatively new, right? Because, I was in their shoes just 2 years before, yeah, it's come a long way. And the second day was on futures visioning, which was super interesting too. This is some of the hard work that we're going to have to be doing with our adaptation planning coming up, but the facilitator was talking about how just neurologically our brains have a tendency to minimize or ignore threats and to shut down if there's a threat that is too much, right? And you think about climate change, and maybe that's really part of the reason we haven't been able to make more progress as a society, not being able to come to terms with the existential threat that it really is. But anyway, so she had us do some really interesting little tasks to try to put our mind into what even our lives would be like, 10 or 20 years from now. And some cities are really doing this and starting to look at policies so that you think that the policies that you're creating today, what are the implications in 20, 50, 100 years, so that you're working towards this place that you want to be in 100 years. Anyway, it was really good. I'll skip some of the things too. I appreciate Roy Ernst and what he's doing to the League of Cities dinner, and Daly City was great, and I had a great conversation with Debbie Ruddock, and she's now the chair of One Shoreline, and I'm going to meet with her next week and try to see if we can get them interested in doing some other projects here in town, because right now they're mostly focused. They've done a little bit in Half Moon Bay, but they're mostly focused on the other side. And so Mayor Beckmeyer and I got to go for a nice walk yesterday too, and talking about that and some other opportunities in town and some dreaming on coastal issues, and maybe a design competition in our future. We're going to have to do some more research on that, what Oceanside is doing. And then I've met with several groups of residents, one group that have been speaking here about fire issues and trying to explain some of the opportunities where they can get involved in the next few months with the CAL FIRE map commenting. Actually, maybe if you don't mind, City Manager, just touching base on that and what the process is, because I know there was an announcement in the Connect with Pacifica, but I'm not sure what the process is, if there's a meeting where, someone is explaining what the maps are for and what kind of feedback they're looking for. And then, yesterday I had a first little, Saturday I had a little coffee chat at the Chit Chat, and just to kind of update whoever came about, the different things that the city is working on. But I wanted to start discussions about oversized vehicles in the area, because I know that's coming up in the next few months, and just to be able to listen to concerns and start thinking. And I thought I saw him here earlier, but actually Sean Geary stopped by, and he was the main name on the ACLU lawsuit, Pacifica resident who lost his home. And it was wonderful for him to tell his story, right, to make it personal, because it's easy to villainize someone who's maybe leaving some trash or, whatever in the area, but to understand how much that these programs really help people and people that are here and connected to our community. And the good news is he's getting housing. So he's moving in very soon. And then also, as Natalie mentioned with her about some of the sea cliff issues and trying to understand what the city's role is. So thank you.
I'm sorry. I've been also trying to get my sea legs, being new on council and getting used to attending so many different committees and commissions. It seems like at least once a week, there's one night where I'm supposed to be at two different things at the same time. And it's always then a challenge to try to figure that out in advance and see who's going to cover for me. But it has, besides being an incredible challenge, it's been an incredible learning experience. It's been extremely rewarding, and it means a lot to me to be able to serve and be able to give back and express some of how I feel about this town back, and to be able to put that effort back in a way commensurate with what I feel like I get back. And there's too many things to list off individually, so I will just leave it with that.
I feel like the last few weeks have been a blur. You know, our community suffered some deep losses, and so it's been hard to, when I started to look back at the last couple of weeks, yeah, that's how it's felt to me. Although I have done some things, so I was able to go down and talk with Sam Ricardo down at Ray Mueller's office, so that was really good opportunity, not to just talk to him, but to the people who showed up, which was really great. I'm going to be sitting on a panel with our city manager at the City Leaders Summit in April, and so we're going to be planning our panel discussion, and thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it a lot. Lots of constituent meetings, like more than I can count. Going into the SDRs, there was a lot of them that week too. We got to meet with Age Well Innovations and talk about their living laboratory, and so that is connecting with Roy's work really beautifully, the age-friendly communities, and so it's going to be wonderful to see how they come together and support each other. I'm excited about that. Horace, thanks for the Sports Hall of Fame forever. Thank you, Horace. It was really good to be there. It's always like a high school reunion where you have people, you know, giving each other a hard time and talking about dropping passes and, you know, all those things. So that part's fun. I want to thank Greg Larson for our meeting on March 1st, our strategic planning meeting. It went really well, and so thank you, Greg. I met with the Mayor's Mental Health Initiative, and so we're going to be meeting with the county and with Stanford to start to create our mental health workshops for electeds, and I'm going to add in appointed administrators or something along the lines, because we know how much pressure everybody's under. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to doing that. That brings my worlds together. I love it when that happens. Commute.org came out to the Pacifica Collaborative, so that was great, and it was very interesting because, you know, we don't have anything out here on the coast, and so, you know, they heard that a little bit at the meeting, and so I think that was also good. What else? Hope had a town hall meeting at Pacific Coast Television, so please watch that again. We're talking about opioid overdose awareness. And then when I'm thinking about the folks who are coming out from the apartment building, just off the top of my head, please contact Project Sentinel. You mentioned Tenants Together. I'm very glad you've contacted them. Contact Faith in Action Bay Area, Legal Aid Palo Alto, and I look forward to hearing about the Tenants Association that has created in that building. I know that's not like city, we don't oversee these things with the exception of code enforcement, but there are a lot of really great activists and people working really hard, including Suzanne and her Pacifica Housing for All, right? So all of those folks together, super powerful, and they bring hope. And that's what we need when we're in situations like that, is sometimes we just need a little tiny bit of hope to get us through the next thing. So that's what they can bring. Okay.
Well, I had recently an opportunity to participate in a Safe Routes to Schools walk audit, which I'd never done before. It was really enlightening for me because it brings together experts from the county, I guess CCAG, I don't know, Bike and Ped, I don't know where they came from exactly. Safe Routes to Schools is its own thing.
It's Grant, yeah.
Right? And then from Alta, I think, did they Bike and Ped plan? Is that the company that did our Bike and Ped? They were there, a couple of folks from there, a bunch of volunteers from Cabrillo School, including Shuri Chan. And Roland Yip was there, and a few folks from engineering, which I was really happy about because I wanted to make sure that we weren't going to go too far, down the road on thinking about, issues around kids getting to school on foot, on bikes, on being dropped off in cars without having city representation there. So I think it was a great group. There were probably altogether maybe 15 or 20 people. And it's amazing when you think about it, all the ways that people were coming together to get to school on time. And it was very, very eye-opening and sort of terrifying to stand on Crespi Drive and watch it unfold before me. It so happened, just like we couldn't have dialed it up, we had fog that morning. We also had a fire first responder emergency wherein a fire truck had to come through where the crosswalk is, where a car was blocking and they couldn't get through. They weren't blocking the crosswalk, but they were just like, they didn't know what to do. They kind of didn't pull over enough and stuff. There's a white zone in front of school that's meant to be pull your car up, drop your child off. People intentionally don't pull up because they don't want to have to fight their way into the lane of traffic that is making its way to Highway 1. So rather they stop in the lane of traffic or on the edge of it, and then the children walk across the spot where they could have parked and then go. Learned about some conflicting school policy, like kindergarten and TK, 4-year-olds, can't be dropped off. Their parent needs to be with them. Where are they going to park? The parking lot is for staff. And there's not even enough spots for all the staff. So they're parking on the street. Everyone's parking in Kenny's Cafe across the street, and very interesting. So they took all the data and all the information, and will be coming back with recommendations, and we'll be, more on that later. But it just was a really beneficial experience for me. I highly recommend it if anyone has an opportunity to participate. The local government working group of the California Coastal Commission met on January 23rd. I may have reported about this already, but we are working on a plan to have some, as I said before, kind of boots on the ground, sort of looks at various adaptation opportunities. There was to have been a meeting tomorrow in Santa Cruz because the Coastal Commission is meeting in Santa Cruz. And the thought was they could quickly put together such a meeting, but then I didn't get information saying it was happening, so I figured, oh yeah, they couldn't put it together that quickly. So I'm not sure if there maybe informally some folks are looking at projects there tomorrow. If they do, I'll find out what they find out because I will not be doing that because I have to go to work. But I'll certainly report back what they looked at and what happened. Coastal Commission is meeting in Santa Cruz Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I looked at the agenda. I didn't see anything pop out that I thought was like, oh, well, we really should watch this item or pay. I mean, former council member, former Mayor Big Stick and I attended a number of meetings, and I don't know about you, but my takeaway is no matter what the item, I learned something. No matter what part of California it's in, I learned something. Just listening to the public comment is enlightening. So it's challenging though because it's always, work days. right? Except for Thursdays, sometimes I can go on Thursdays. So I'm not going, even though it's so close, I can almost taste it, but I'm not going. Too much to do. Coastal Cities Group, we welcomed a new member, so we got the slot filled for San Diego area, Del Mar area. I wish I could remember the city she's from right now, but I can't. Her name's Amy Stewart, and she is brand new, has been on council, I think, for 2 years, but brand new to Coastal Cities Group, so we're excited to get her on board. I've heard conversation from 2 different bodies that used to form what used to be known as the Joint Articulation Committee. That used to be a gathering of 1 or 2 elected staff member from each of Jefferson High School District, Pacifica School District, the City of Pacifica, and North County Water District. And that body stopped meeting about a year ago, I want to say. I think it was kind of precipitated by Jefferson High School District. They felt that it would be more efficient for them to meet individually with the body, the representatives from the body, if they had something going that might affect the city, that they would reach out and have a meeting just with the city, that they weren't feeling the time was productive. I was bummed because I had just gotten there and loved it. I was super excited, and then we're not having a body anymore. And now I'm hearing there might be interest in reconstituting that. And after seeing what's been going on in the world, in the state, in the county, in our city, I think that's a good idea. So I don't know, what's going to happen, but I'll, if anyone else hears things or has thoughts about that, I'd love to talk more. I was going to let Councilmember Wright talk about the fun time we had a week ago Thursday. It'll be a week. When was it? It was the day that Myra and was at the new leadership thing on Thursday, and so we were in San Francisco at a urban planning exercise, and as we were doing it, I was thinking about something you described, Mayor Pro Tem, you had done a tabletop project somewhere. Was it Urban Planning Institute that conducted it?
At Spur?
And I don't know, it was at Spur. This was at San Francisco Foundation is where it was located. But where you had to design a city, basically, with parameters, with housing, with transportation and all that. And make little Lego things and design it and make a presentation. I mean, basically you had to become a planner and do a whole project in 6 hours or something. I was exhausted. And then it was hard. And I really thought we were going to win. But then I saw Councilmember Wright's team's presentation, then I went, okay, I don't think we're going to win. And then as it turned out, the other team won, which I was really kind of surprised. But anyway, it was a very good experience, and I was telling the city manager about it, trying to think about venues for more people to get involved in doing that. They are asking for it. They would love to have more electeds participate, and just thinking about what would be the opportunities. I brought up League of Cities, and they said they had approached them before and it didn't really fit because it's such a long day and all of their training opportunities tend to be, a few hours at a time or short bits in a larger conference. So I don't know if anyone has thoughts about that. If I hear of any other opportunities, I'll certainly let you know. I think it's well worth the time. And I look forward to doing it again now that I know how to be a planner. Sheesh. It really opened my eyes. It was really, really beneficial. And I'm really glad about the timing in light of, us finishing our housing element and where things are going to be going in the near term in Pacifica. Just with more housing coming eventually and stuff. So that was really beneficial. I can't think of anything else that's really urgent I needed to share with you. And if, oh, yes. I think city manager has some things to say.
Oops.
Thank you. Just two items that I'll mention. The first was, as Mayor Pro Tem Bowles mentioned, regarding the fire severity zone maps that came out last week. And on Friday, we posted a link on the city's website to the webpage on the North County Fire Authority's website that has the maps and explains what they're about. And just as a quick summary, after those maps have been released and they show medium and high and very high severity zones, generally Pacifica has medium and high, some medium has medium and some high areas. And then I think at the very top of Sweeney Ridge is a very high severity zone area, but that's GGNRA land. Anyways, the maps are posted. The obligation of cities is to do that within 30 days. They're available for folks to comment on. And then within 120 days, the city or cities have to adopt the maps in an ordinance. And so that process is unfolding now. I don't have any information about any different engagement or future meetings to explain the maps. The North County, what I'll be talking with Chief Myers about is North County Fire Authority does a monthly call about fire preparedness issues, and it would seem this would be an appropriate topic for that call, and they could bill it as such. And if they think of any other avenues in putting out the information, I'll be sharing that widely, and we pushed it out and connect with Pacifica as well. The other item I wanted to mention is on Friday morning, had the opportunity with Councilmember Wright to go down to San Jose for the annual, what's called the State of the Valley presentation that Joint Venture Silicon Valley, which is kind of a think tank, data and analysis think tank for Silicon Valley on all the issues that affect all the cities, as well as nonprofit and private tech sector, et cetera. They do this annual release of the index report, and I highly encourage for a sobering view of what Silicon Valley is, both pros and cons, dealing with, looking at some of the indicators in that index report. It's available online in sort of a dashboard format, and the conference was excellent, just a half day. David Brooks was the keynote speaker, who's from the PBS NewsHour, very insightful and heartfelt comments from him that I can't recount here, but just a very big perspective on what's happening in Silicon Valley, our state, the country, everywhere. So it was really worthwhile. I don't want to speak for Councilmember Wright, but I think he enjoyed it as well. So, and again, I just recommend that index, and as city staff will certainly use that as we're looking at issues, housing, affordability, you name it, very important issues that they analyze, really data-driven. So it was great. That's it.
I did, thank you for mentioning about the fire severity maps. We received word through Katrina Rill of a couple of town hall type opportunities, even though Supervisor Jackie Spear is not our supervisor. There are town hall meetings happening. One that is coming right up on Thursday at 6 p.m. in San Bruno. The focus is County Department of Emergency Management, talking about steps residents can take to protect themselves and their homes in terms of fire, and then a specific talk from a person from the County Office of Community Affairs, speaking about the uncertainty about ICE raids in our communities, and that's come up here inquiries and public comment before. So that is in San Bruno at 6 p.m. And the one that I did put on my calendar, because I'll be able to go to that, is in April. Be wildfire safe and aware. I think Supervisor Spears expecting quite a turnout. It's on Saturday, April 26th from 10 to 1 or 2 p.m. and it's in the Fiesta Hall at the San Mateo County Event Center. Having attended a meeting in that quite large, it feels like an airplane hangar room, I expect there'll probably be a lot of people there. So I did want to just mention those. I meant to do that earlier. And this evening, I would love to give anyone the opportunity to speak if they would like to, and adjourn with the thought to adjourn tonight's meeting in memory and in honor of Tony Corton. Tony was the principal of Ocean Shore School, and he died suddenly about 2 weeks ago. It has been a very hard thing to adapt to, accept, and to incorporate. Many people, myself included, worked with him for years and years at the school district. And I realized how kind he is, how much care he poured into the students at really 4 different schools, because he was a teacher at Ortega School, K-5 school, for 11 years before becoming an administrator and moving to Sunset Ridge School as a vice principal, also a K-5 school. Those students feed into IBL Middle School. So the students and families of IBL Middle School were clearly touched by him, and this last year he's been the principal of Ocean Shore School. So we grieve and we ache with his wife, Kelly Corton, who is a wonderful business owner in town at the Royal Bee. And I just really wanted to acknowledge him and his loving mark on the city of Pacifica and its citizens. And if anyone else would like to say anything?
That was beautiful, Sue. Thank you. Very well said.
And with that, we'll adjourn the meeting in honor of Tony Corton.